Yes.
The lead Spring Army sends its regards.
Hello, everyone. I'm the Enforcer, and I'm accompanied by Enforcer Matt.
And good evening, folks. It's Enforcer Matt, and welcome back to day 1554 of the War News stream. And this evening, the U.S. has conducted another love tap on the Iranians after the Iranians apparently attacked a U.S. commercial ship near the Strait of Hormuz, and apparently they put warheads on foreheads as a result of that whole situation. We've also seen that Moscow and several regions of Russia are now struggling with further gas shortages as they are spreading across the Russian mainland. And also, get this is a very big one today. Russian forces have just started retreating near Zaporizhia from the front lines due to the recent attacks. And we have very large news, and it's good to see you all once again.
And of course, we're going to be covering the past 24 hours of the news from around the world, as we have been able to hear of significant developments that have just unfolded right before stream, as the United States of America has turned more into s'mores within the area of the Strait of Hormuz, and have cooked up a couple of more IRGC members near to the area of the Bandar Abbas International Airport. We understand that this action was taken by the United States as a true defensive action today, according to statements that have come out at this moment, as the Islamic Republic of Iran conducted a one-way attack drone strike on a U.S. commercial vessel that was somewhere within the area of the Gulf of Oman, the Persian Gulf, or the Strait of Hormuz. We're not entirely sure which at the moment, but in response to this, the United States of America then targeted and destroyed the forces that apparently launched the drones at the vessel, which were based out of the Bandar Abbas International Airport, or specifically the 9th Flight Wing of the Iranian Air Force's air base, which is also at the exact same airfield. Additionally, we've also been able to hear that as of today, the United States of America has now re-envisioned its concept of the Strait of Hormuz, and instead of working to reopen the Strait of Hormuz as quickly as possible, the president is now saying that it is completely pointless to reopen the Strait of Hormuz, and it's not even our problem. We have also been able to hear additionally that there's been other significant developments on the U.S. diplomacy end, but the Iranians have made it exceptionally clear today that they will not be reopening the Strait of Hormuz in the current circumstance, and they will only be allowing vessels through that are of friendly nations, which is basically just China. We've also been able to hear additionally other reports out of the Bandar Abbas area of the U.S. strikes that were conducted within the area, and it does appear that at the moment the strikes were somewhat significant. We've also been able to hear that the Russian Federation announced that they will not be returning any of their nuclear personnel back to the Bushehr nuclear power plant, at least for now, because they consider the workplace to be somewhat hostile. We've also been able to hear as well that inside of the area of Israel, a Hezbollah rocket attack was conducted within the northern region today, and the Israeli Air Force has conducted airstrikes on the city of Tyre. I gotta say, the Hezbollah forces are certainly running out of rubber the way the Israelis keep hitting that tire. We also have been able to hear additionally that there's been other significant developments within the southern front in Ukraine, as the Russian Federation is now in an active retreat in several areas of the front. While these retreats are not breakthrough advances by the Ukrainians, and the front line is now going to be crumbling quite literally overnight at the moment, there is enough of these retreats that have happened over the past 48 to 72 hours that it's starting to become fairly clear that the Russian supply side situation in the southern front is generally desperate even at this moment right now, and the expected stockpiles of munitions and supplies that we believe the Russians to have within this area were far smaller than anticipated, and the supply woes and damage being inflicted by Ukrainian long-range strikes is already creating a actual situation that is coalescing on the front lines right now and is leading to the Russian Federation being slowly pushed back at this moment by the armed forces of Ukraine. At the same time, significant attacks have also been shown, and the aftermath of them within Crimea and the southern region of Russia, with drone footage coming out from last night's attack on the port city of Tuapse. We've also seen that many Russians in Taganrog are apparently infuriated now because Russian air defenses last night did misfire and ended up slamming a couple of missiles down into the city blocks of Taganrog, which may have been the explosions that we were watching yesterday live on air. We've also been able to additionally hear that not only is that going on, but fuel shortages are now gripping the entirety of the southern front as well. In some places in Crimea and Melitopol, there is quite literally no fuel whatsoever that is reaching any of the gas stations within this area, which is now raising the question as to whether the Russian army has any gas to operate off of as well within that area. We've also been able to hear that the United States of America has announced today that they have an invasion force ready to land in Cuba, and they've apparently selected this one little spot right here called the Bay of Pigs for the hypothetical invasion that will be happening here in the future. We've also been able to hear of other significant developments that have been going on around the region, including significant strikes on Russian flotillas within the Caspian Sea, and we've also been able to hear that the Swedes are now preparing to send the Gripens to Ukraine. Zelensky has also sent a letter to the President of the United States on Memorial Day requesting the provision of Patriot air defense systems and missiles due to the fact that the Ukrainians are beginning to run dangerously low and do not have an indigenously built design that they can field and operate themselves. With all of this in mind, we are going to be getting through the news today, starting with our largest stories first, and then moving our way on down into the smaller stories throughout the night. But at this moment, we actually have breaking news coming out on air. So, Matthew, what do we got?
All right, so the U.S. has taken some action against Iran just right now. It's not a military attack on Iran, but it looks like we're taking economic measures against the new Persian Gulf Strait Authority, which is the Iranian pretty much made-up fantasy body that controls the Strait of Hormuz, or at least they claim to control it. Apparently, the U.S. just sanctioned that Gulf Authority, and they're saying that it'll apparently cripple it, at least economically, but it's a brand new organization. But we are hearing about that right now, though. The Treasury website is showing that as well, so that is official at this point. So it appears to be they're going to try a financial route first, which is kind of a strange thing to do because I'm not really sure if that authority really even has money to sanction at this point. So I'm not totally sure. I think that might be more of a symbolic move than a real move, but Enforcer, what say you?
I wanted to say, I don't really know why we even did this, because this is legitimizing the existence of the Persian Gulf Strait Authority, which we could have just ignored and pretended like it didn't exist and have any legitimate power. Leveraging sanctions against this authority is now showing that we recognize this as an existent force within the strait that requires action in response. So as far as foreign policy is concerned, this isn't really a good look, because we're basically acknowledging the existence of the Persian Gulf Strait Authority instead of denying that it exists altogether and operating off of the concept that it doesn't, and any attempted exertion or control over the area would be an illegal one, considering that's occurring in an international waterway. So now at this point, we've moved the argument, actually, with this breaking news that just came out, we've moved the argument from Iran doesn't control international waters because it's illegal to Iran does control international waters, but we don't like that, and now we're going to sanction them. That's not really a good negotiating or arguing position to work off of, at least for us.
Yeah, I would say not. That's kind of a shocking move, actually. I wasn't really expecting that, but apparently they decided to go through with it. We are expecting that the Treasury Secretary will be making a statement about this either later on tonight, possibly, which could be a little bit questionable because he usually doesn't come out this late at night. But we might hear from him tomorrow morning about this. So maybe we'll hear the thought process behind why they did this, because it is a little bit, a few question marks here about why they would even go through this trouble. So we'll have to see.
Man, this is insane. We never even recognized East Germany throughout the whole of the Cold War. The U.S. literally gave no legal recognition of East Germany. But we will give recognition to the Piddly Iddly Boat and Fast Attack Boat Authority in the Strait of Hormuz. Make it make sense. It doesn't make any sense. I don't know why we just did that. Honestly, folks, this is a pretty big foreign policy blunder right here. I don't know why the hell we even put sanctions against it, because our position should have been is that is an illegal group that does not even exist and has no authority. Therefore, there's no action to take against it because it's an illegal group. Anyways, moving us on out of that whole news that just came out right now. We'll be getting into all of that later once we make it on down and into the area of the Strait of Hormuz, which is going to be right now. We have been able to hear that over the course of just the past 2 hours before we went on air, there have been some reports that came out of Bandar Abbas that have confirmed that the United States conducted a second round of strikes on the Islamic Republic of Iran, and particularly within the Strait of Hormuz area within the last 72 hours. According to eyewitness reports on the ground, we were able to hear the following from locals inside of the city. 4 explosion sounds came one after another just now at 1:33 in the morning in Bandar Abbas, which was just a few hours ago, and apparently, hello, Mr. Vahid, just now 3 explosion sounds came in Bandar Abbas at 1:33. Haji, explosion sounds again in the east of Bandar Abbas just now, 3 in a row at 1:43. Hello, Vahi, 1:33 at night, just now in Bandar Abbas, the sound of 3 explosions came towards Behesht Bandar, probably again like the previous time, the airport area. So at this moment in time, it appears that everybody was in conjunction, that this was explosions on the area of Bandar Abbas. Also, by the way, I forgot to mention this is a transcript. I just saw Matthew clarify that chat.
Yeah, this is actually messages from an eyewitness that's on the ground speaking to another source that generally covers the Iran topic, and FiTux reposted what they put out from their chat log. So that's a direct message feed right there from somebody that's actually in Iran.
But hello, Mr. V. Honestly, man, when you just read that, it makes it so much more comical. But Bandar Abbas, 1:30, 27th of Khordad, sound of a fighter jet followed by 3 explosions. 3 explosions were then followed in Bandar Abbas again, so this just appears to be a multitude of reports verifying that there was the sound of 3 explosions, a possible 4th one maybe, around the area of the Bandar Abbas International Airport. Just 72 hours ago, on Monday, we did see that around this very same time that this attack was conducted just today, another attack was also conducted, generally hitting and destroying targets around the area of the Bandar Abbas International Airport. From what we know, according to CENTCOM statements, they claim that surface-to-air missile systems were targeted and destroyed by suppression of enemy air defense operations in the area of the Bandar Abbas International Airport, which would support the operations of the 9th Flight Wing of the Iranian Air Force, which is based at the northern side of the facility. We do understand that additional information came out, once again confirming that multiple eyewitnesses were stating that there were impacts of 3 missiles within the Bandar Abbas area, and we've also been able to hear, once again, another source saying they heard 3, maybe 4 explosions in the distance as a part of these explosions. Unfortunately, folks, we have no video or picture evidence to speak of with this one, but considering that we have undeniable statements from an endless amount of on-the-ground sources and eyewitness reports, this is being reported as factual news, and considering that we now have the aftermath statements that were made to confirm the strikes, this was a credible action to make to verify these as actual news reports coming in on the ground that explosions have been heard once again around Bandar Abbas. From what we're understanding at the moment, the situation that we have heard of is that the Islamic Republic of Iran conducted a one-way attack drone strike on a U.S. commercial vessel somewhere within the area. We're not entirely sure where, and we're not entirely sure of the name of the ship either, but according to U.S. statements, 4 FPV drones, or kamikaze drones, were launched towards the area of this U.S. commercial vessel. The United States apparently, from what we know, intercepted the drones and then started retaliatory strikes against the forces that were involved in either defending the incoming strike or were involved in launching the strike. Either way, most of these forces appear to have been based around the area of the Bandar Abbas International Airport, airport, and as a result, it appears that 3 or 4 targets have been hit, but it's more likely 3 than 4, because more people reported 3 explosions, independent explosions, instead of 4. We also understand...
You know something that I have a question about? The U.S., the CENTCOM came out yesterday and they refuted the report that the U.S. ships were restarting Operation Freedom to get those ships through the Strait of Hormuz. So they denied that report, but now they're saying that Iran launched an attack on a U.S. commercial vessel trying to transit the strait from the sounds of it. So it's like, what was that U.S. vessel doing there anyway? Because I thought that the vessels weren't able to pass. They know Iran's going to fire at them. And also, the U.S. wasn't supposed to be escorting ships. So what was it doing there?
I don't really know, and also I'd have to say that the fact that we can't find a U.S. flagged vessel at the moment anywhere around the strait is kind of leading me to believe that the story might be a bit of crock. I think it was another preemptive strike, once again, that the United States just conducted, but much like the last time, we're trying to phrase it as some form of a defensive attack, when in reality, it's more of a preemptive strike than anything to try and destroy Iranian forces that we believe are going to be threatening us at some point in the future. So, to be honest with you all, folks, I don't even think the U.S. commercial vessel actually exists. That's the story that's come out that's been stated by the U.S. military, but I also have to remind you all that on the day on Monday when the strikes were being conducted by the U.S. on the IRGC of fast attack boats and Bandar Abbas, they also stated that it was purely defensive because the Iranians were trying to conduct some sort of armed action against the United States. Turns out the next day, the actual story came out that we conducted a preemptive strike because they were putting forces in Bandar Abbas that we thought looked a little threatening, so we just decided to go ahead and bomb them and wipe them out before they could do anything, which falls exactly under the textbook definition of a preemptive strike, which is an offensive action and cannot be justified as a defensive one. If you ever went into a criminal court in the United States of America and said, I saw this guy at midnight in an alleyway and he kind of just looked a little shifty, so I shot him, you're going to be going to prison, because there is literally no parameters or confines at that point, any rules that you could work off to say that you were in fear of your life and you operated in self-defense at that point. What you did is that you just attacked some random bystander who kind of looked a little bit suspect, but he hadn't done anything yet to put you in fear of your life or imminent threat of danger to be able to defend yourself. And off of what we've seen so far in the strait, this appears to be a pretty similar sort of a situation on the prior strike on Monday and this one today.
The U.S. administration must be really scared to put their whole theory about the war restarting to the test in Congress because, I'm like we've said before, we're in favor of the strikes restarting again because clearly the negotiations aren't going anywhere. We've been saying that for weeks, if not over a month at this point. So they must be really fearful that if they go to Congress, that Congress is going to say the war cannot restart under these circumstances, which would be kind of odd because the Strait of Hormuz is still closed. There's still a lot of loose ends that need to be tied up. So, that's kind of a strange thing. I think you might be right. And also, I said this last night as well. It does not really seem defensive. It seems like a justification for preemptive strikes, which is fine. But it's just weird that they're having to tiptoe around like this instead of just simply going right back in and just going for it in the wide open. They're like doing this weird game of like, we're not doing something. We're keeping the ceasefire going, but yet we're still striking the Iranian mainland at the same time. So it just really strange with that.
Yeah, it is really weird. I don't even know what their plan is because, by the way, folks, the War Powers Act doesn't cover an active war or an offensive conflict. It covers hostilities. If y'all don't believe me, go pull up the War Powers Act of 1973 and just go read it. And you'll be able to read, word for word, verbatim, that it doesn't say that a state of war has to be in effect. It just says that hostilities of some sort have to be underway. That's what it covers. So this isn't even really skirting around the whole War Powers Act issue, because in all honesty, defensive or offensive, this is still ongoing hostilities between the United States and the Iranians, which in technicality, by the letter, it would still require the intervening of Congress and their decision in approval or non-approval of the continuation of any armed hostilities against the Islamic Republic of Iran in offensive or defensive purposes. So a little bit interesting with that, and we'll be waiting to see what comes out of that in that turn. But we have been able to hear, folks, just in case if any of y'all were concerned or really curious, does this break the ceasefire? No. The United States has carried out a defensive operation in Bandar Abbas, according to officials who spoke to FITUX Network, adding that the U.S. will act to safeguard its regional interests. This does not affect the ceasefire. So this just in, folks. Bombing Iran 500 times doesn't break the ceasefire.
It's just a love tap, they said. Just a little love tap. Also, by the way, I gotta say, huge shout out to FiTugs Network, by the way. They literally got that scoop before the multi-billion-dollar mainstream media corporations got it. As you could tell in the post, they said a U.S. official told FiTugs Network. They got it like 30 minutes before everybody else, by the way. That's crazy that they did that. So a huge shout out to FiTugs Network, by the way.
Another win for all of us out here in the open source intelligence world. FiTugs Network really bringing in the actual big stories, as a matter of fact, which is pretty insane. I gotta say, really impressive on their end. Huge kudos to them. And also, we were able to hear that the U.S. did carry out more strikes. According to what we've been able to hear, the U.S. has carried out new strikes against a military site in Iran that, quote unquote, posed a threat to U.S. forces and commercial traffic in the Strait of Hormuz. That wordage is very important. The U.S. military has also intercepted drones being launched from Iran today. I want to go back to the exact wordage, end quote, that the U.S. Defense Forces or a U.S. official just told to Reuters. They posed a threat to U.S. forces. That doesn't say that they imminently were or were in the process of attacking someone. That's just saying they kind of looked a little scary in the back alley at midnight, so I pulled out my .44 Magnum and I shot them, is basically what that's saying. And I'm going to be honest with y'all, I have a feeling when tomorrow comes around, we're going to find out that the Iranians probably did nothing, because this whole story about this ship is up in the air, in my opinion. I haven't seen this ship. I haven't seen on any public transponders a U.S. ship that's even close enough to that area to be the point of crisis right now. So I'd be entirely honest with y'all, I have a feeling that this wordage is starting to preempt the reports that are going to be coming out tomorrow that tell us that once again, just like on Monday, there wasn't really an imminent attack, well, an ongoing attack against U.S. forces that were happening within the area or a U.S. ship. It's just that we felt threatened and so we bombed them again. And just to make it clear, folks, it's totally fine if that's the case. But the problem is that you can't have your cake and eat it in this scenario. Either the Iranians are a threat and we're resuming military actions and the conflict is back on hot and heavy, or it's not, and we're not firing at them. It's one or the other. We don't get to play some sort of weird middle ground, and honestly, it'd be a lot more beneficial for us to just come out and be honest at this point in the U.S. government and say, the Iranians pose a threat. There's no way to negotiate with them. We have to bomb them, and we're going to be bombing them. And
Oh yeah, that would probably be the better way to go. But you got to admit though, like right now, like I guess this is better than nothing, because even if the ship story isn't accurate and the U.S. is simply just manufacturing that story to have a defensive justification for striking the Iranian mainland, I would say it's better than nothing. So also, it appears to be that Iran's really not retaliating to it to a large degree. It sounds like the Iranians are just kind of sitting back and taking the thrashing that the U.S. is conducting near Bandar Abbas. So that's kind of interesting on itself. It looks like Iran might also be very, very hesitant for the war to restart, because like we've gone over before, it's better for their country if they simply sit back and wait and then let the damage basically be enacted on the United States. It's worse for the United States to wait because our economy is going down the toilet while it's happening. So it appears to be it's just a strange situation. Like, it's strange that Iran's not responding, and it's strange that the U.S. isn't going all the way in either.
we know why the Iranians aren't responding. At this point, it's clear. They're just trying to wait us out economically for the pressure to build bad enough that we have to agree to whatever they want. As far as the U.S., however, it makes no sense why we're not just going back in. Let me tell you something, folks. This would be like magic right now, because apparently the president is concerned that if they go to Congress to get approval, everyone's going to say no. And y'all know why they're going to say no, and here's the reason. The president has not been informing anybody, or the executive branch hasn't been informing anybody in the Congress as to really what's going on at all, and everybody's in the dark. And that's probably why more people would vote no than yes to continue the conflict, is because nobody even in Congress knows what the actual objectives or the ideas are of the office of the president that would be necessary to continue the conflict, or what's going to be happening if the strait continues to remain closed. If they just be transparent about that and explain it to the Congress, I would have a feeling that 70% or more of the House and the Senate would vote on the War Powers Act to allow for the hostilities to continue, because it would be within the strategic imperative of the United States to see such an action commence. But right now, a lot of people aren't talking about this situation in the chat. And Matthew, what are people thinking about this right now, given the situation that we've now just heard about the strait, and what are you thinking about it as well?
Okay, so what do y'all think about the situation? What do you think is going to happen out of this? Because now we're seeing that in less than 72 hours, the U.S. has struck the Iranian mainland twice in just less than 72 hours. Iran has generally not responded to it in any meaningful way whatsoever. And in fact, they barely even make statements about it. They're pretty much staying quiet, even diplomatically, they're staying quiet. So now we're hearing of an alleged ship attack, a U.S. ship attack. So, that's of course being questioned right now. But what do you think this means? 62% said the war will resume soon, while 17% said the war will not resume, and 11% said the U.S. is lying about the ship attack. And, I have some questions about the ship attack. I'm not going to say it's completely false yet because maybe some more information comes out that says it's true. But right now, there's a lot of loose ends with that whole story about the ship attack. Also, yesterday, there's a lot of loose ends about that, too. So, also, I'm about to get some breaking news here in a second, by the way. But let me finish this poll out. I would say the war is probably not going to resume, at least in the short term. But I might be wrong on that because it sounds like breaking news is coming out. But Enforcer, what's your take on the poll while I try to get this breaking news?
All right, and it sounds like Matthew is starting to get really like, there's like, I got breaking news. So hopefully we'll be able to hear that here in a brief moment. I have a feeling, folks, that the war is probably not going to be resuming here soon. The Iranians are adamant at this point. Go ahead.
I think we better hold off on your analysis because I think we might be proven wrong on the spot. Kuwait is currently being attacked, it sounds like. They're currently under an alert, and sirens are going off all over the place inside of Kuwait. So that's happening right this second. So, of course, the primary suspect is Iran, of course. So we are seeing an active situation happening in Kuwait, waiting to see if other alerts are going to pop up. Also, a huge shout out to Ms. Diesel for alerting me to that, by the way. But that appears to be an active situation. So my analysis, I just said the war might not resume, might be completely wrong. I might be proven wrong right here on the spot.
Wait, hang on. Sorry, everyone. I had a frog in my throat when I was first trying to answer it. I'm actually with the 62%. I have a feeling. Like,
come on. What the hell, man? You can't do that. That's illegal.
I'm just playing, man. Honestly, like if this is an Iranian drone attack that is happening right now in Kuwait, then we just got both proven wrong on our analysis. We're going to have to eat our foot. Because honestly, the smart thing right now for the Iranians to do would just be to sit back and do nothing. But it sounds like Kuwait's now under attack. But also, wait a minute, hang on, wait a minute, though. They might, hang on, I gotta say this really quickly, folks, because it just hit me. They've done this before, though, in the ceasefire. Remember, Matthew, they conducted a drone attack on Kuwait, Qatar, and also the UAE, and they hit the port of Fujairah, and literally nothing came out of it. They might actually be trying to measure out their response to save face, but not also force a restart of the conflict. So this might be a very measured response, possibly. So I'm actually going to stay with my 17% analysis right now because there's no way or indication to say that any actual attacks that might be happening right now, it sounds like they are, in Kuwait, the UAE, Qatar, or any other Gulf states, is going to lead to a conflict because we haven't seen that happen yet. And this has already happened about twice before in this 2-month-long ceasefire we've been in right now, and the U.S. did absolutely nothing to respond.
Well, it depends. If it's a small attack, like 1 or 2 drones that go into the Gulf states from Iran, that could be overlooked. But if it's something large, that's going to make it a lot harder to overlook. And also, like the U.S. has generally operated outside of the reality at this point. They'll generally say, we can launch attacks on Iran, the ceasefire stays in place. That's obviously operating in delusional world. That's not the way the real world works. And who cares what they're saying verbally? That's not the way it works. So if we see a large attack on Kuwait, that might be something that the U.S. simply cannot ignore, because I'm sure the Gulf states are going to start putting pressure on the United States to do something about it, because they don't want to get attacked and have a whole bunch of infrastructure damage and completely give up, their sovereign right to respond to an attack. I'd imagine they probably don't want to do that. So we'll have to see here, but we are tracking that live, though. I'm really desperately looking for more breaking news and footage out of this, but the air raid sirens literally just started going off 2 minutes ago, so this is extremely early.
And let's see, what time of day would it be over there? Well, it's morning. It's well into the morning at this point over there. I would say probably 11 right now in the day. Not entirely sure on that. It might be 10 or 9 or so in the morning in Iran right now and in the Middle East. But it certainly does appear that at the moment, we're probably going to be getting some pretty significant indications. We're already seeing them out of Kuwait. Though there might be a Gulf-wide drone attack that's ongoing right now. but how large it is, we haven't been able to ascertain yet while we're on air. So y'all are here in the midst of our breaking news. It looks like we're probably going to have to stop the normal coverage probably for a moment to make sure that we can stay up to date on this ongoing drone attack, because crazy enough, it's literally on the very topic of our poll that we have running right now, and it's ongoing live. We'll probably be expecting to hear the reports of incoming drones in other Gulf states if this is a broader attack here within the next several minutes, or it might just be a smaller drone attack that's being conducted against Kuwait and the Kurds in northern Iraq, and we might just hear about limited drone strikes or attempted drone attacks in those areas that are not joined by any others in the region. But Matthew, do we have any other news?
Yeah, also, by the way, you can show people an image if you haven't. I haven't been watching the screen, sadly, but if you want to show people the alert that went out, I have reposted that. There is a alert here in English and also, obviously, in a foreign language here. I believe that's Persian, Arabic. Yeah, there we go. But we can see here, there's the alert on the screen. I'm currently seeing here that apparently the officials in Kuwait have not issued any details about this. The details are extremely sparse. They're saying that there's no immediate clarity on what triggered the alerts, but all they know is the air raid sirens are blaring in Kuwait. We do know that for a fact, and also alerts like this were sent out to people's phones. So, I mean, it could be maybe a false alarm, although we haven't really seen false alarms. Usually when Kuwait sends out an alert like that, usually it is backed up with some sort of incursion by a drone, but right now, that's all we know. That is literally it right now.
And we do understand that right now there is a drone alert inside of Kuwait, and we'll be trying to see if we can get any more information out at this point on what's going on there. But it certainly does appear there is some sort of an ongoing air raid. We just don't know to what extent the amount of damage that might be inflicted or what the Kuwaiti air defense is doing right now at the moment. So I hope that addresses that the best we can at the moment. We'll be covering breaking news as it comes out live on air, because it looks like we're now in the midst of a breaking news story while we're live.
Also, check FR24 real quick and see what the current air traffic looks like around the area. See if it's cleared out around Kuwait, commercial traffic.
Oh, no, actually, there are a couple of aircraft on short final right now for the runway at Kuwait International. There's a Jazeera Airways and a Kuwait Airways aircraft that are currently landing right now. So it doesn't look like
click the airport. Click the airport and see if you see any information about delays or anything like that. So I'm not really seeing anything on here. So if it says no disruptions, at least right here on Flight Radar. I'm not sure if maybe it hasn't had a chance to update, but it's literally like, less than 5 minutes ago. That could be possible as well, but it looks like they haven't diverted flights yet. So that's interesting.
That is really interesting, especially considering that they have a wide-bodied 777 coming in. That's probably got a lot of passengers on it. That'd generally be a pretty big threat to have just flying into an airspace in the midst of a possible ongoing attack. But it doesn't really look like any of these I don't know, maybe it's a false alarm. Maybe, but Iran did vow to retaliate. They said they were going to do something. They did say that the other day, but that was generally met with silence after that. So maybe this is their retaliation, or maybe it is a false alarm. We'll find out here in the next 10 minutes. I mean, yeah, we'll definitely be finding out here soon. We'll just have to wait and see, I suppose. But moving us on out of that news and back into the Strait of Hormuz to keep covering everything else that we have today while we're watching this news unfold. We haven't been able to hear today, folks, outside of the whole strikes on Iran, don't break the ceasefire, that the president of the United States, everybody, has revisioned the foreign policy. Let me remind you all what we're working with. The Strait of Hormuz matters. The Strait of Hormuz doesn't matter. We'll reopen the strait. We're not going to reopen the strait. We're going to bomb the bridges and all the people in Iran. We're not going to do that. At the request of Pakistan, the Strait of Hormuz doesn't matter. We're going to open the strait. We're going to close the strait. We close the strait on top of the Iran's closure of the strait. We're going to open it. Now, today, the Strait of Hormuz does not matter again. According to the president, we don't need the strait. So that's the
what?
Yes. It's changed again.
Blah, 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 blah.
We've done another 180. We've done another one. Honestly, folks,
that's crazy talk.
Someone needs to get the president into a street meet for cars. He'd be whipping damn donuts in the middle of an intersection like no other. The way he can flip the foreign policy around in a 180 every week or so at this point. But we do have breaking news coming out this moment right now. So what do we got, Matthew?
Okay, so we have some breaking news right now that this is a real attack on Kuwait. This is not a phony. This is not a fake. We say what?
Oh, nothing. Go ahead.
Apparently, there is an air attack on Kuwait. It looks like locals are now taking pictures of what appears to be explosions and air defense engagements and also air raid alerts going off. Right here, we can see there appears to be a missile-based interception that took place over Kuwait's airspace that we can see right here in this image, but it does appear to be a real attack. So it looks like Ocean Technicals also posted the general location he believes this picture was taken in the comments over there. So where's he showing in that map right there? Let's see what he's come up with.
Al Jafra, over to the west of Kuwait City.
Interesting. So it is a real attack. So it's likely Iran. It's probably not a proxy force because, of course, there's always possible that maybe a proxy force of Iran that's maybe in Iraq launched this attack. But it probably came from the Iranian mainland, I would guess. But right now we're seeing this one interception on camera. We'll have to wait and see if we see more.
Yeah, I'd have to say we'll have to definitely see. We'll have to keep waiting because there's definitely something in the airspace over Kuwait. Have they diverted the flights yet? No, actually,
They don't give a damn.
Man,
that shit's gonna run. No matter if there's a war on or not, they're landing.
man, they said these passengers pay for them tickets, and damn it, we cashing. Like, man, they said Kuwait Airways 284 cleared to land, runway 19 right. Like, man, damn, I tell you, man, the Kuwaiti Airlines, they don't play. They're gonna get you into the airport even in an active war. Big kudos to them. But anyways, moving on from that and back into the news out of the Strait while we wait for more breaking news to come out. We've also been able to hear the following today, according to N12, which is an Israeli source, so take this for what it is. If a ceasefire deal with Iran is reached, the American fleet of aircraft will be evacuated from Israel within 72 hours to bases in Europe. The aircraft will be on standby to return to Ben Gurion Airport if fighting with Iran resumes. So it appears that they've gotten some information that the U.S. might be negotiating a deal to where the U.S. packs up and leaves Israel. Truth be told, the Israelis are going to kick us out as soon as this whole thing's over anyways, so that's not like that's something we're doing on our own volition. We're going to be kicked out regardless. We've also been able to hear that, according to the president today, stated by the U.S. Secretary of State, he stated that the president prefers a diplomatic solution with Iran, adding that progress has been made towards reaching an agreement. Y'all heard it here, folks. Y'all heard it here. We're hours away from a deal. We're hours away. It's just that, the hours, it's hard to measure them. Sometimes they're weeks. A couple of hours is a couple of weeks in reality. We just give it some time, folks. It's definitely coming around the corner now. But we actually have more breaking news coming out, most likely from Kuwait. So what do we got, Matthew?
Okay, so we've gotten our first official statement here from the Kuwait Army. Also, a huge shout out to Miss Diesel once again for passing this on to me because I hadn't seen it yet. But it looks like the Kuwait Army has issued an official statement, and here's what it says. It says, Kuwait air defenses are currently responding to hostile missile and drone threats. The General Staff of the Kuwaiti Armed Forces confirms that any explosions that may be heard are the result of air defense systems intercepting hostile targets. The public is urged to adhere safety and the security instructions issued by relevant authorities. So they are confirming they are definitely under attack. They say missile and drones. So it appears to be not a limited attack. It appears to be a larger scale attack from the sounds of it. Because if it was smaller scale, we would not be hearing about hostile missile threats, most likely. So it appears to be both of them. So we could be seeing here possibly the reopening of Iranian attacks on the Gulf states. It appears to be these attacks are limited to Kuwait right now at the moment, but I'm surprised because usually when Iran does this, they love to lob a few at the UAE because they have a real bad bone to pick with the UAE for some reason, but it appears to be Kuwait is the tip of the spear right now.
Well, it does appear, folks, that we can largely confirm at this point that there is a larger attack that the Iranians are conducting within the area, at least against Kuwait, and we're probably going to be hearing about similar such incidents from other Gulf state nations here soon. Usually they're attacked in a group. So we'll most likely be expecting that here on air, we'll be hearing of air defense reports from Qatar and the UAE very soon as well. Usually those three countries are attacked all at the same time. So we can confirm that it does appear that the Iranians are conducting some form of a significant response. It's just that now, folks, the question is, this is clearly an act of war and a violation of the ceasefire. But the real question is, folks, is if it's mostly peaceful, and if the administration is going to actually recognize this for what it is, which is a violation of the ceasefire. So we'll have to see. I have a feeling, folks, that they're probably going to say the ceasefire is still intact tomorrow. But who's to say? We'll have to see. But moving us on out of that, and out of all of the U.S. positions that we've heard of today, we also got to hear from Iran's position today inside the Strait of Hormuz. Let's start with our earliest one and get to their latest statement. The Iranians said today that the Strait of Hormuz remains closed to vessels from hostile countries. Well, sounds to me like that's status quo. They then also said the following as well. Iran will not be pushed back by the president's rhetoric from its red lines: the right to enrich uranium, possession of enriched uranium, authority over the Strait of Hormuz, and the removal of sanctions. It is obvious the president, seeking a way out of the strategic deadlock, alternates between issuing threats and appealing for an agreement. So that's
Holy cow. It sounds like they're saying that the talks are at an impasse. That's coming, who's this coming from? The head of the Iranian Parliament National Security Commission. That's coming from one of their top people right there. I wonder if we can take his word that they don't want to negotiate.
That, by the way, everyone, that's Ibrahim Azizi. What a nice name. What a cute name. But it appears, folks, that, my God, it's like we've been saying. The Iranians are playing us for fools. Look, they just said outright they're not going to give up their right to enrich uranium, so they're never going to allow any restrictions on uranium enrichment. So they're going for nuclear-grade uranium. That's what they're saying. The possession of enriched uranium, meaning they're keeping the uranium that they've already enriched, and then they also now want to unilaterally control the Strait of Hormuz in perpetuity.
Damn.
And also have all sanctions lifted.
Yeah, I guess it was true when the U.S. came out yesterday on Sunday, or not yesterday, but on Sunday, they came out and said that there was progress made. They just didn't tell us it was progress that was going backwards. I thought it was progress going forward. I didn't think that at all, by the way. Just a little inside information. I didn't believe that one bit. But as you can see here, apparently the progress was going backwards, going the wrong direction. But I think the U.S. omitted that fact.
Man, well, I actually heard, Matthew, that the U.S. diplomatic delegation did show up to try and get to talk to the Iranians again, and I heard that these were the cheery guys that they sent to go talk to him for the 900th time.
Man, I tell you what. Also, by the way, when everybody likes to criticize us, they like to say, "You guys are warmongers because you want to start a new war with Iran." Well, I mean, here's the catch. The U.S. started the war. Not a bad thing because, of course, Iran was building missiles. They were building, nuclear enrichment and stuff like that. So not horrible they started the war. But here's the catch, though. We can't just stop the war just because it's gotten ugly all of a sudden. It's like you can't start it. If you think that you're going to get cold feet halfway through it, then don't start the war. And clearly, at this point, it's time for the war to get going again, because if the war doesn't get going again, the Iranians are clearly stating right here, literally from their top officials, they're not making any concessions at all. And they've been negotiating allegedly with the Iranians for weeks. So if they were going to budge, they would have already done it by now, and they're clearly not.
And also, folks, what's kind of a little bit stupid is that many statements have been made by the president to make it sound like we agree with the Iranians and the Iranians agree with us on everything, except for all the important things that actually matter. So if we agree that cake is a form of bread and, kissing ass isn't really great, an ass tastes like ass and the sky's blue, that all those little agreements don't really matter. Well, these ones that the Iranians are stonewalling on are the only ones that actually matter, and we're not making any progress with them on those topics that matter. So we've made it nowhere, and still, today, folks, the Secretary of State comes out and says that the president is still wanting to achieve a diplomatic solution. Well, I want to be a multi-billionaire, but I can't just will that into existence, and you can't will a diplomatic solution into existence when there isn't one either. So how about we just get back to finishing what was started, and maybe go to the Congress and explain to them why we have to, so that way they'll actually vote to approve the continuation of hostilities instead of saying no, because most of all of them are in the dark, much like everyone else is right now in the public, about what the actual plans of the current administration is. Maybe that'd be a good idea, but what do I know, folks? I'm just a lowly citizen of the Republic. I only have one vote. It's not like I know anything. But anyways, moving us on from that Iranian statement, we've also been able to hear another one. The Iranians want $24 billion in frozen assets released before they even sign a deal, including $12 billion up front when the agreement is announced. They want to get paid a dowry for the deal. They want a $12 billion payment in cash just for us to announce the peace deal, and then another $24 billion to sign it. That is the most expensive signature that would have existed in human history at this point. A the $36 billion signature on a piece of paper that's not going to mean anything once it's signed because the Iranians aren't going to adhere to a damn thing on it. So, I mean, this is getting absolutely insane at this point. It's clownish, really. And also, once again, the open source intel stated that Ibrahim did state that the U.S. and Iran are in a deadlock, which is quite clear at this point. So it does appear that at the moment, as far as diplomatic progress is concerned, there is no diplomatic progress. We are still burning tires in the mud to get nowhere, and we're still where we were 2 months ago when this whole ceasefire started, and nothing has changed at all. We are still in the same spot we were. They are not going to give up uranium enrichment. They're not going to give up their enriched uranium. They're going to keep control of the Strait of Hormuz, and they want to get paid. So that's literally what they were saying 2 months ago, and they're still saying that 2 months later. Clearly, there's nowhere to go in negotiations. But we actually have breaking news coming out this moment. So what do we got?
Okay, so this one's not from Twitter, by the way. This one is actually from Telegram. Also, by the way, I'm going to do it again. Huge shout out to Miss Disa for sending this over to me because I did not catch this one. It came out very quick, and I haven't had the chance to see it. But this is coming from Vahid Online on Telegram. They're saying from the Kyrgyzstan. So can you get a geolocation on that, by the way, real quick? Where is this that he's talking about?
Kyrgyzstan?
Yeah, that's what he's saying here.
Let's see.
He's saying specifically near the Almadaya Mayanku Tunnel.
Oh, I don't know about that Kumbaya tunnel, but this is the Kyrgyzstan province right here.
So apparently, this is allegedly where this is taking place right now, but here's what the eyewitness report says. It says, I'm receiving messages and images saying that around 5:50 a.m., a missile was launched and an explosion sound was heard near the Almadaya Mayanku tunnel in this area that we're looking at, and someone wrote that the launcher was targeted inside of Kuwait, and apparently this happened simultaneously while the sirens just went off. Apparently that launcher was targeted from the sounds of the report off the ground. So it's possible that maybe there was an impact with a launcher in this area that we're looking at here near this tunnel that he's referring to, and maybe they only got an alert once that happened and once it was struck. That sounded like might be what happened.
Might be so. This is around Avaz City, by the way, everyone. This is actually where the F-15E got shot down back in the day when the weapons systems officer was stuck behind the lines for a while and we had to recover him. This is actually the same province that happened in. So, fairly interesting on that one. We'll have to see if we get even further video and picture evidence to be able to corroborate the story that we're getting on the ground right now inside of Iran. But I saw someone in the chat say something that I find very, very interesting, because some people always say that we maybe have a reason to try and say that conflict should continue. And someone said, well, y'all do make a living off of war. Here's the thing. This is a little bit of a misnomer that people don't get. We are always going to be in business because there's always going to be a war. There literally will always be one going on in the world. If it wasn't Iran, it's Ukraine. If it's not Ukraine and Iran, it's something else. There are so many wars going on in the world right now, we don't even get to cover most of them on air. And if the Iran war truly did end, we just move on to another because that's the business and that's how news works. The thing is, though, is that being an American and looking out for American interest, letting a sworn enemy of the Republic take control of a vital waterway where they can economically starve us to death isn't really something where we get to deliberate and have different opinions on whether that's good for the United States or not, because that'd be like saying, let's let Nazi Germany control New York City and all of the major ports on the East Coast in World War II, because clearly there's nothing wrong with that, and that's not going to do us any harm. The thing is, folks, is that there are things that are clearly not in the strategic interest of the United States of America, and letting a mortal enemy of the United States control the most important waterway in the world for the shipments of oil globally that keeps the global economy stable isn't really something where you can have opinion that that's not important. That is important. Any major trade route in the world is important, especially for it to be open for use and trade for us and our allies. If it's not, then we're going to be losing a great deal of money, and when we lose money, folks like you, like the person who said that in the chat, might get laid off from your job because the company that employs you is probably going to be running in the red, and they're going to be trying to trim their overhead so that way they can keep their company afloat, meaning that you're going to be the one suffering from this all in the long run. That's why we don't want the Iranians to control the Strait of Hormuz. The Iranians aren't going to give it up, so that means that war is the only recourse. War is the recourse of failed diplomacy, as some people have said in some historic quotes, and that's what this is. It's nothing about loving war or wanting war, but if the Iranians aren't willing to give it up peacefully, then war is all we have to get it back,
Oh,
and
yeah.
war is what we'll use.
And also, the people on this channel here, like y'all remember what's happened because y'all were here to watch it being covered live. But it seems like a lot of people, like just general everyday Americans, have like short-term memory loss or something. It's like they've forgotten that just a month or two ago or something like that, the Iranians wiped out 40,000 of their own innocent civilians for merely protesting the oppression that they're constantly under. They just wiped them out, literally took machine guns to the streets and just started mowing civilians down by the tens of thousands. And that just happened 2 months ago. And there was the whole thing about the U.S. going to help and stuff like that. So there's a lot of other like secondary aspects while we should be dealing with the situation right now, other than just the Strait of Hormuz. The Strait of Hormuz is taking the headlines because that can cripple the entire global economy. But there's another aspect to it as well that literally civilians are getting mowed down in massive numbers as a result of all this. And we offered to help those people. And so far we haven't.
Yeah, that's also another thing. That happened, by the way, Matthew, 5 months ago, crazily enough. That's how long it's
Holy
been.
moly.
That was in early January.
Yeah, it feels like it was 2 months ago, but I guess maybe it was 5 months ago. I'm losing track of time.
Yeah, man, 2 months ago was when the ceasefire started that we're still in right now. That's how much time has passed. It feels like time is flying, folks, because I would think it's 2 months ago if I was thinking from my memory, but crazily enough, it's been 5 months. But it's just also I gotta say, folks, there are so many bots, and it's crazy to look at like the opinions that they put out. And I'm gonna put this one out as a public service announcement for folks. Some people say when we talk about American interests, this one guy said, "Y'all are pushing the Zionist propaganda." How in the hell?
Don't waste time with those, man. Don't waste time with those. That's a complete waste.
It is a complete waste, but for people who look at that kind of stuff and go, maybe there's some merit to it, this isn't for the Israelis. If there's no oil coming out of the Strait of Hormuz, the U.S. economy is going to tank. That's not like a fictional line of speaking. If there's no oil to put in the tank of a car, a plane, or a train, there's no way to ship any goods to you to buy to be able to get, or the price is going to be extremely high on them. That's screwing over the United States. Don't listen to people like that, folks. Those people are either brainless or they're speaking words in support of our enemies. Those people are going to get the country screwed over. Don't listen to them once. But anyways, moving us on from that, it is time for us to get on into the rest of the news that we have out of the area. We have a little bit left in the Middle East, and then we're going to hop over to the Americas really quickly, and then right back up and into Ukraine. But before we get to all of that, I do have to say a humongous thanks to everyone who has been watching so far. We still have a lot of news to go, so make sure to stick around, folks. But a humongous shout out to everyone who's been here. We've had 19,000 people here at the peak of the show tonight, and we've also had 70,000 people watch the stream in the first hour. I've got to say that we're entirely honored and massively appreciative to have had so many of y'all here watching the show over the course of the first hour, and we still have a lot of news to go and a lot of breaking news that's going to be unfolding live on air over these next few minutes because of what's happening right now in the Middle East. So, with that in mind, before we move on into the rest of our news, I do want to make sure that we take a brief pause and get some questions. And so, Matthew, we're going to be getting 3 questions, by the way, folks, but Matthew, what do we got?
Okay, so I'm currently sleuthing every single source I have at my disposal right now to get more information. I'm getting some more information, but nothing too crazy. Just some more details about the alleged area that Iran might have targeted a missile launcher inside of Kuwait. So it's apparently near that tunnel. I've gotten more confirmation about that from the looks of it. But outside of that, though, the details are kind of sparse. But they will be coming out soon, though. So stick around beyond the question segment, because I'm sure we'll have some footage eventually coming out. Because I don't think Kuwait is one of the countries in the Gulf that's currently imprisoning people for uploading videos. I don't think they're one of those countries. I know the UAE is doing that. They'll simply lock you up and put you in prison for simply taking out your phone and recording something. So apparently Kuwait's not. So we might be getting some video here pretty shortly. But jumping into our first super chat, though, in the meantime, while we wait for that breaking news, this one is going to go to none other than Deniable Ghost. And thank you very much, Deniable Ghost, for that massive $200 support, by the way. The largest one of the night. That's extremely generous support, and we do appreciate that. It does keep the channel running. And the Ghost said, last night you guys laughed about the bus that was speeding down the highway of burnt gas trucks. Did you notice that the bus was squatting in the rear, and they are designed to run level even with full occupancy? And also there was a 6-wheel flatbed empty military truck in front of it.
Yeah, I did. We did notice that. Yeah, that's actually true. We noticed the bus was like squatting in the back. We made fun of that a whole load on air because that thing had that Carolina squat going on a bus frame, and you just don't see that kind of a thing often. But I do have to say that the Ural that was in front of it was pretty interesting, and also, let's see here. Hey, generally, that would be my answer to your question. So, humongous thanks to you for that unbelievably massive support and helping this channel to keep it running, Deniable Ghost. Because humongous support like that helps us to keep this channel running, helps us to keep it on air, and helps us to keep covering the news. If it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to make this channel possible, and we wouldn't be able to keep it running. And it's an incredible and amazing thing to know that folks like you continue to support this channel so that we can keep this kind of coverage on air all day, every day, 24/7. So, a massive thanks once again, and we're on to the next one.
And our second super chat here is going to go to none other than Truckin' Chef, who also throws in a very generous $50 support. And thank you very much, good sir, as well. And Truckin' said, true and proud American spirit, an awesome job, enforcers, as always. Shout out to the enforcers, Leaf Spring Army, and thank you, and take one from the chat.
And thank you so much for the incredible support and helping this channel to keep on running, Truckin' Chef. And I'd have to say, it's a tough thing to try and argue what would be best for the country these days, but I'm always proud of the country. Every time I get out, every day, and I look at those beautiful mountains of the Wasatch Range here in Salt Lake City, I always think, wow, the natural beauty of this country is unbounding, and the people here are so nice. Like, I had to go around and run some errands today, and everybody everywhere was just so nice, and I was so happy to run into that. And so, I gotta say, I'm always proud to be an American, but a lot of the foreign policy actions the United States makes, it's like someone's literally drinking cans of lead paint to make these decisions, because I just don't know how in the hell they could even have the lack of brain power to come up with some of the stuff that they do or that they say. But a big thanks to your support and helping this channel to keep on running, because if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to make this thing possible, we wouldn't be able to keep it running, and we wouldn't be able to say long live the Leaf Spring Army and long live the Republic. And we'll make sure to get a live chat in your honor. So what do we got?
All right, so the live chat question is going to go to none other than NE Colorado, who said, how many carrier strike groups are currently in the area near Iran right now?
There are two. There is the USS Abraham Lincoln and the USS George H.W. Bush. The USS Gerald R. Ford was finally rotated out and is back on its way to Newport News, or the Norfolk Naval Shipyard in Virginia. So we do understand that there's only two available carrier strike groups in CENTCOM's AOR at the moment, which I believe would fall under the command of 3rd Fleet. So I hope that does address that live chat incredibly well, and a big thanks to you for support, Truckin' Chef, and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the last question of the segment, and then we're going to be getting right back into the news.
All right, so the last one here goes to Con45, who also puts in a $50 support, and thank you very much, Con, as well, for supporting the channel yet again. He said, I am sick and tired of Russia threatening Ukraine with nuclear weapons. Russia has 11 nuclear power plants with 32 reactors, and Ukraine can easily remove the cooling towers and all those plants in one night if they wanted. Are the Russians really that uneducated?
Well, Russians are not really the smartest, the brightest out there. I would have to say that generally. But the thing is, though, is that Ukraine attacking and blowing up nuclear power plants is nuclear terrorism, because, you know, if everybody's been moaning and bitching that the Russians could blow up the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, and that's wrong and that's not right, well, you know, the Ukrainians doing the same thing to Russia is the same. It's nuclear terrorism. So I'd have to say that generally, you know, that's, I wouldn't really say that that's kind of a proper analysis, really, because I get where you're coming from there, but that's still terrorism. That'd be like saying, oh, well, the U.S. doesn't like Iran. Well, there's 80 million helpless people. It's like, well, it's like, yeah, but that's also terrorism. And, that generally countries that have any moral compass don't really stoop to, just the dirtiest tactics 24/7. So that's generally what my answer would be. But a big thanks to your support and helping this channel to keep on running. And before we move on into the rest of our pre-scheduled news, we actually have breaking news coming out at this moment. So, Matthew, what do we got?
Okay, so go check Flight Radar 24 real quick. It looks like the airport at Kuwait International might have just started sending aircraft into holding patterns from the looks of it. Let's see if that is the case. Well, I'm not seeing any aircraft in the sky. Is there any filter on right now for commercial?
Actually, just to clarify this is the past two planes that we actually saw in the air that we saw and covered. That's the exact same flight, Kuwait Air 284 777. So this is old.
Okay, yeah, I was just making sure. That's why I was wanting to double check on Flight Radar for that. But yeah, it does appear that those aircraft landed, so that appears to be not true at the moment. Also, but click on the airport. Are we seeing any delays or anything being noted here on this thing under disruptions?
No, not at the moment.
Wow. So, okay, Kuwait's just balling out. They said, we're under attack, but we're not stopping. We're leaving the airport open. So it looks like the airport's wide open still. So that's kind of wild in the midst of an attack.
Is there something beeping on your end?
Yes, there's somebody backing up into a parking spot out here, and they're taking their sweet time doing it too. I
Bro,
think
I
it might
heard
be
that the
new.
whole time you were talking, bro. I just heard beep, beep in the background. I was like, what the hell is
Actually,
that?
folks, excuse me. That's actually not somebody backing up into a parking spot. That's actually my breaking news alarm going off on the side, actually. I'm sorry.
Honestly, man, it sounded like a Russian alert on a ship that's been hit. Like it was like beep, beep. I was like, damn, bro, you in like a Bouillon class Corvette? Like, did it get hit? Speaking of which, we actually got a clip of one of those getting blown up in the Caspian. But moving us on out of this question segment and that breaking news, we also have some news that came out of Bushehr today that apparently Rosatom, which is the Russian State Atomic Energy Corporation, said the decision has been made to postpone the return of Russian personnel to the Bushehr nuclear power plant in Iran. So basically what they're saying, folks, to get it in corporate speak, they have synergized and listened to the community and they understand their concerns. Currently, due to the very spontaneous and evolving situation around the area of Bushehr and the somewhat hostile work environment that exists that currently many people are trying to synergize with and truly understand, the Rosatom will not be sending their employees, or more so their customer service associates, back down to the Bushehr nuclear power plant to be able to continue with the evolution and innovations that their company continues to provide and support for. So I hope that does answer that well for anyone who just came off of a 9 to 5 at a corporate job. And moving us on out of that, it's in Bushehr, Iran. We've also been able to hear that in the meantime, there was a Hezbollah rocket attack on northern Israel earlier today, and we also saw that the Israelis were airstriking Tyre. Man, the Israelis be burning rubber because they blowing up them tires.
يعطيكم العافيه الدفاع
Let's get this clip.
اللبناني وصل على الغاره على شارع الدنيه شارع الدنيه
Bro, is this the policeman
شارع
filming?
صفية الدين.
Maybe. Like, I don't.
Oh my
maybe.
God. Like, man, if that's the policeman filming, they might be in some deep trouble.
Bruh, imagine a police officer in Salt Lake, man, seeing like a 5-car pileup and then just running up with his camera, filming and going, yo, yo! Like, it's like, bro, you're the cop. Like, you're supposed to be trying to help. But also, we have this one last clip here showing the picture of one of the explosions in Tyre. Moving us on out of those clips and that news in Lebanon, we're going to be moving on out of this country and on out of the Middle East in general. Because just to throw y'all a curveball out of nowhere, the U.S. has an invasion force ready to invade Cuba right now. The Pentagon has spent months positioning the troops and weapons needed for the U.S. to launch a military attack on Cuba. All that's needed is a final go-ahead from the president. So while we're still trying to figure out how to un-F up the F up in the Middle East, we're trying to see how quickly we can catapult into a second F up in the midst of trying to fix the first one.
This is like having a compulsive gambler uncle that doesn't know when to stop, and they just like keep on doubling down, like hit me again, hit me, hit me. It's like, stop, bastard. It's like, stop. Literally, like, you can't go jump and double down like every single time. Like, you gotta stop for a minute. A crazy unk.
I'm not gonna lie, folks. I don't even know what this one's for. It's like, how in the world the Cubans posed a strategic threat to the United States worthy of a preemptive attack? What economic value would there be in this action? What, like, there's no way to actually justify this at all. Like, the truth of it is that this is just a bullshit action that we're working on, and apparently there's just a whole bunch of people sitting down on the southern tip of Florida right now waiting to invade Cuba. I did hear, folks, some rumors that apparently they might be going to the Bay of Pigs, but I personally haven't seen the Kim family there, so I think they call this something else since Kim Jong-un and his folks aren't there right now, because I haven't seen any pigs like that in my life. Honk, honk. But moving us on out of the whole deal with Cuba, quite a crazy story. Matthew, do you have a poll on that one, by the way? I think you did.
Yes, I'm furiously trying to type it right now.
Man.
You see, I do have the polls like pre-written, like most of the time. I just have to grab it, but I do have to come up with the options for it on the spot. But here it is right here. Start voting, people. Vote plenty and vote often.
Man, I was sitting there, man. I was like, how the hell do I filibuster? Why did I get to get this follow? Because I was like, I remember you saying that poll to me before the show. But to give you all a little bit of a background, this whole thing's kind of come out of nowhere. The United States really hasn't had any strategic issues recently with the Cubans, and recently the President of the United States just made this a problem. Why? Well, there's no reason why. We've never heard a legitimate one. It's just because F them. That's literally it. So apparently we're willing to go through a couple of 100,000 troops of the problem, and, tie them up in Cuba for who knows how long to occupy the country and build up a new government, nation build, basically, in what could possibly be a forever war, which is something that generally the current administration said they were never going to do for the purposes of, I don't know, just woke up and felt like it. So a lot of people right now are currently talking about this idea. Matthew, what are people thinking about this? And what are you thinking about it as well?
Okay, so U.S. forces are now allegedly in place around Cuba, or at least they claim they are, but we're not really totally sure about that independently, but they claim that U.S. forces are currently in place around Cuba and are simply waiting the order to lay siege to the place. So what are your thoughts? 44% say that's a very bad idea. 29% said we need to finish Iran and then hit Cuba. 21% said this is a quick and easy move, like 4 easy payments of $19.99 or something like that. So I would say this. If the U.S. wanted to go after Cuba, it's already a shaky argument because it's not really clear why we would be invading Cuba in the first place. That's not perfectly clear right now. The administration's really not making the case very well to the public, and that's something that they have to do, folks. Like, they have to make the case to the public why it's necessary, because wars cost tax dollars. They cost potentially the lives of soldiers and, sons and daughters of American citizens. So we're entitled to know why we're going to war. That's not something that the president keeps secret. That should be something that we all know about before we all get dragged into something that we'll be dealing with for decades to come. So right now that argument has not been made properly. And also, the bigger argument than that is we just started a huge quagmire with Iran and we're not finished with it. And in fact, it might just be starting. And now we're about to start a new war and double down when we're already, pretty deep in the hole at this point. So not a good idea, I would say. I'm with the 43%. This seems like a bad idea. And hopefully the U.S. isn't about to repeat what we did before. Like, of course, Bay of Pigs was a bad disaster. That was very bad. And of course, I think they thought that was going to be easy, but it turned out not to be so easy. So I'm with the 43%. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would be with the 43%. It doesn't make any sense. And I see some people saying, but it's a communist country near our borders. Yeah, that's true. But think about it, everybody. It's been there for 70 years. We haven't had to do anything about it, and they don't even pose a threat. Have y'all seen the Cuban military of late? They're literally rolling around gush guns on ox carts. These people don't even pose. They never could pose a strategic threat to the United States. They don't even have an economy. Like, there's literally no reason to go down there and do this. What do we get out of it? Nothing. If we take over their country and it goes without a hitch, we got to spend billions of dollars holding the country down because we can't just walk away then. We've got to build a whole new government for them because there won't be a government if we just left it fall into a state of anarchy. So we got to build a government for them, which is going to cost loads of money. We got to hold down the whole country, which is going to cost billions more, to do nothing because it's like, what's there? Tobacco and sugar production. That's it. They also have a very big human organ trade. Don't ask where they would come from. I don't know, but they do have a big human organ trade. So outside of those things, there's nothing that Cuba has economically that would really add to the Western sphere whatsoever. And there's also no strategic threat they pose either. So this is a completely stupid idea. I don't even know what the point of this is. And remember, everybody, it's just kind of going, like, honestly, right now, the foreign policy is just going around and trying to pick fights. Because if it's not Cuba, it was Greenland. And if it's not Greenland or Cuba, then it's Venezuela. And if it's not Cuba, Greenland, or Venezuela, then on an off chance, it might be Colombia or Panama. It's just literally just going around and creating problems to have a problem to try and somehow get a quick win, and then when that's never had, it just turns into a giant mistake.
And also, I heard earlier this morning that apparently they're also declaring war on the cartel in South America as well, on top of that. That apparently came out of the Department of War this morning, but they didn't really elaborate what that meant. They simply said they're going to war on the cartels. So they're starting a lot of shit all at once. It's like, we don't need to start this much stuff all at once. Like, I know people say, well, the U.S. spends $1 trillion a year on the military, so we can start as many as we need. That's how empires fall, people. Like, we have a lot of money we spend on the military, and our military is very powerful, but we don't ever want to get to the point of arrogance where we say, let's just go around starting conflicts everywhere and see how bad it can get. We don't want to do that.
Man, wasn't this guy elected on the No New Wars slogan? Like, wasn't that the thing? I think we've gotten, how many have we gotten into at this point? Or almost gotten into 4 or 5? How many?
I can't even keep track of it at this point. There are some wars worth fighting, by the way. Like the whole thing of keeping perfect peace all the time, that's not realistic. That never was realistic. The world's always at war. There's always people wanting to hurt each other. So yeah, you always have to go on defensive actions. Iran was one of those that could have been justified and might still be justified if we handle it properly. But we'll have to see though. But it's just, we got to be careful though. Like we can't go around getting so arrogant that we think we can't fail as a country. Any country can fail. Like, there's been a lot of hard lessons learned over the years by people that get too arrogant, that think they're too big for their britches. That countries like us can still learn those lessons, and I don't want to be here to learn it.
Also, folks, here's how it really works in real life, to tell y'all how it actually happens. The war isn't a tap where you turn it off and there's literally, we aren't involved in anything in the world and we're just like isolationists, or you turn it on and you're fighting literally everywhere on the planet. Wars are something that you do when they're necessary, when you can't negotiate with someone or they're not willing to talk to us. So with Iran, a war would be necessary because they're never going to talk their way out of getting a nuclear weapon, and we're never going to be able to do that for them. So you have to go to war with Iran. That's a necessity. Cuba is so below us, it's like it doesn't even matter. It's just a bigger version of Haiti. And we're not as sure as hell invading Haiti, because like if anybody told me that there was something worthwhile in Haiti, hell has frozen over. Cuba's just a bigger version of Haiti. There's literally no reason to go to Cuba because there's nothing to get there but a bunch of bullshit and an endless couple of year occupation that we have to tie up most of the U.S. Army to keep going.
What was it? It was JFK that did the Bay of Pigs thing, right?
Yeah, he was the guy.
So I remember hearing that the people that were in charge of the operation said, "Oh, it was going to be like a cakewalk. It was going to be just so easy. Like we're just going there. We'll just do this. Bang, bang, bang. We take it. It's over with." It turned out not to be that way. It turned out to be a big failure, by the way, that we try to forget about as much as possible. Why was that a big failure? Like in a short explanation, why was that such a big failure? If you can say it.
Oh well, it's a little lengthy. So if we got 5 minutes, I can explain it because it's actually really interesting.
Is there like a main reason why it failed? Like just because I would like to make a point off of it.
It was planned by Eisenhower, and Kennedy wasn't willing to follow through with the whole plan Eisenhower had.
Okay, so it was basically falling too short. They didn't want to follow it through either. So, it's just we can't go starting to stuff like that. Like it can always go sideways. Like even if they have a foolproof plan, like for example, when we went down to Venezuela and captured Maduro, like we said before, that could have easily gone sideways. Like there was no guarantee that was going to go perfectly. Our armed forces and special forces, they're very competent, but sometimes things just happen. Shit happens on the mission that goes sideways. Like for example, when they went to go get Bin Laden out of the Middle East, there was a couple things that went sideways on that too, like helicopters crashing and stuff like that you really can't foresee. And it's like that things go really sideways, and all of a sudden you get into a quagmire if it goes too sideways. So that's why it's always risky to start stuff like this. That's why we shouldn't be so quick to jump into it.
I see a lot of people actually, Matthew, asking for a little bit of a history lesson about the Bay of Pigs. I'm going to give a quick one, folks, because it's actually a little bit in depth as to why that failed, but it's important to remember because there's a lot of lessons to be learned from it. During the Eisenhower administration, when Bautista's regime, which was the capital, more so authoritarian, semi-capitalist sort of regime that existed that was friendly to the United States, fell at the hands of Fidel Castro's uprising in Cuba, and then Bautista fled Cuba to live in exile in the United States. Eisenhower was very big into the concept of communist containment, which means that we should actively be fighting and destroying any communist influence, especially in the Americas, and making sure that communism remains contained to the Soviet Union and countries that were already communist. So Eisenhower started to work with the Vice President Nixon, which crazy enough, Nixon would also go on to be president later. But Eisenhower and Nixon both started to work with the Department of Defense and the CIA, which was Allen Dulles at the time, who was the director, to start working on an overthrow of the Cuban communist government that had just come into power. So their plan was to get a whole bunch of Cubans that had fled and were living in southern Florida and give them a whole bunch of arms and use the mafia as a third party so that way the U.S. government's fingerprints weren't on the operation, and also give them some air cover that would also be operated and fielded by the Cuban expats in Florida, and then to conduct strikes on Cuba. When Kennedy became president, he didn't want the Cuban air power to be involved because he thought that'd be too overt. So when the Bay of Pigs invasion landed, it was half-baked, half-assed, and it failed because it had no air cover or air support, when the original Eisenhower plan actually had that built into it. So I hope that does address that well as a short history lesson. And Matthew, what breaking news do we have coming out at this moment?
Okay, so the IRGC is just taking responsibility for the attack on Kuwait. And right now, it appears to be that the attack might still be ongoing. I can't tell if it's still happening at this moment right now, but it looks like the IRGC and also Iranian aligned state media has put out a statement here. They say the IRGC has purposely targeted an American airbase in Kuwait. And they say they announced in a statement following the attack by the U.S. aggressor army on a point on the outskirts of Bandar Abbas airport with aerial projectiles at dawn today, that the one that just occurred that we covered earlier. They say that the IRGC says as follows: in the name of Inshallah, the Most High, in their words, they said the most powerful and those who attack you, and they say some bullshit. They said following the attack by the U.S. aggressor army on a point on the outs. Why are they repeating the same thing over again? So in other words, let's just put it this way: it's word salad, it's word soup. The IRGC has taken responsibility for it, and they say they purposely hit an airbase, an American airbase in the area, and it does appear in the vicinity of where these explosions were happening. It does appear that the Ali Al Salim Air Base is apparently right there in the area. So it looks like that's probably what they were targeting. It looks like the trajectory does line up from that right there. So, Enforcer, what can you make of that?
That's definitely why we saw the air defenses over at Al Jafra, because if it's in Al Jafra to the west, Ali Al Salim Inshallah is also over here as well. So that's definitely what they were trying to target. We don't know if the attack made it through. I would assume that it didn't. Well, you never know, but I would assume that it didn't. But it is showing that the Iranians have conducted a response. This is one of the first ones I think we've seen this against a U.S. base for a while now during the ceasefire. We have seen this before, but it does appear quite clear at this point that the Islamic Republic of Iran has conducted a retaliatory strike, and we're now seeing that the airspace is closed and around Kuwait and also southern Iraq as well at this point. But it looks to be a very limited response at this point. We're not seeing any other larger strikes from Iran at the moment. So it looks to have maybe been a saving face counterstrike just to make sure that they don't look like they're doing nothing.
Yeah, maybe so. So that's a U.S. air base that was attacked. So the U.S. has officially been attacked. The U.S. has attacked Iran. So by any definition of all of us sane people out there that still have our sanity intact, the ceasefire is officially technically over. It was already over before, by the way, technically, but this makes it impossible to argue that the ceasefire is still on. If this is considered a ceasefire, then people are insane that are saying that. So the ceasefire is officially over. At this point, the U.S. can either respond to the aggression that Iran's now conducting, or we can look extremely weak and keep sitting back and running our mouths like, mindless idiots, acting like we're going to keep negotiating with a terrorist regime. So this is the moment that will define this administration. I'm not trying to be political with that, but this will define it. Are they going to be, steadfast and strong against our enemy, or are they going to try to back down and be basically a cowardly bully in the face of a country that's attacking our men and women that are serving?
Cowardly bully, 100%. You're going to hear it in a little bit, folks. It's going to come out in probably the next few hours that this does not break the ceasefire and the attack was mostly peaceful. Because if there's anything that we know, the Iranians attempted an attack on 3 destroyers that were going through the strait, and we did literally nothing. They also conducted attempted attacks on U.S. forces near to Erbil, and we literally did nothing. And they've conducted a significant amount of attempted attacks on U.S. forces in recent days, and we've done quite literally nothing. So I would have to be completely frank with y'all. We're not going to be seeing them do a damn thing to this. They're going to announce, because we've seen this before, that the attack was mostly a face-saving operation and therefore a mostly peaceful attack. And so for that reason, it doesn't require a U.S. response and the ceasefire is still in effect. I will put money on it. That's what they're about to come out and say.
I don't know. Like, I'm kind of on the fence about it. Like, that would seem to line up with what they've done previously. But at the same time, though, eventually at some point, folks, I mean, the U.S. public that likes to be kind of ignorant to what's happening, like with geopolitics, they get bits and pieces of this information, not nearly as in-depth as what we're going over right now on the air. Like, this is insanely in-depth compared to what most Americans hear from mainstream media by far, and most people know that. It's in the chat. Mainstream doesn't cover anything anymore of any importance. So eventually they'll hear bits and pieces of this, and they'll draw the same conclusion. They'll draw the conclusion that this is starting to look extremely weak, and that's going to reflect on the leadership in the United States eventually. So, I mean, it's going to catch up. So I think this might be inching them closer to responding, but we can't say that for a fact because so far they've been rather weak, I would say, on Iran.
Yeah, I would have to say, I would have to be honest with you though. I just don't think they're going to respond. I have a feeling like let's put our bets. Matthew's saying that this is probably going to be it. Like this is probably going to be what's the catalyst to respond. I'm saying they probably won't respond to this at all. Like they're going to give their same boilerclad statement. It's mostly peaceful. Yeah. It didn't really mean anything. Face saving measure. All that. Ceasefire still in effect. We're still looking for a diplomatic solution because no matter what, that's what they keep doing. It's stupid. It's completely pointless. But that's what they want to do, and they mean they're going to keep going for that. So I hope that addresses that well. We're going to have to see what happens over the next 72 hours and which one of us ends up being right. Me, who says that they're going to do nothing about this, or Matthew that says they're finally going to do something about this the 90th time. Like, so we'll have to see. But anyways, moving us on out of this this breaking news segment, it is time for us folks to get on back and into the rest of the news that we have from around the world. And we have a lot of news that has come out of Europa today, and particularly the war in Ukraine. Before we get directly into the war in Ukraine, we did get some good news today from Sweden, as they reported that they are preparing to transfer Gripen JAS-39s of the C and D variants to Ukraine. I heard that you can shove these things into a CD player and they run a pretty nice movie. The number of aircraft is currently unknown, but we do know that the Gripens are going to be handed over. The Prime Minister of Sweden has scheduled a press conference to tomorrow, at which the transfer is expected to be announced. JAS-39 Gripens are incredibly affordable and easy to operate. They're very easy to maintain, very affordable, and generally are able to carry a pretty decent loadout as well. So pretty nice to see these things being given to the Ukrainians by the Swedes, especially during this moment in time when air defenses in Ukraine are becoming somewhat strained. As Zelensky did put out a statement today to the President of the United States asking the U.S. for support. This is the first page of the letter. There was about 6 of them. But I'll read you all the first page here really quickly, not all 6 of them, to kind of give you a little bit of an idea of what exactly Zelensky said. Dear Mr. President, honorable representatives, dear friends and allies, and dear Americans, it is on Memorial Day, May 25th, that I chose to write this letter to you. It has already become a tradition in Ukraine, and I believe it always will be for every president of Ukraine, to address the United States on this day with words of gratitude. In Ukraine, as we defend our independence, we hold men and women in uniform in the highest respect. Without their courage, Ukraine simply would not exist today. That is why we feel especially grateful to America's men and women in uniform and every American. Time and again, America has helped protect Europe and defend freedom. And today, with your experience and steadfast support, you continue helping us defend ourselves against Russia's unprovoked and ruthless aggression. We know that the world will be a much darker place without American leadership and determination, and we deeply value everything you do to protect freedom and save human lives. For that, I thank you. Just ahead of Memorial Day, on the night of May 24th, Russia launched an especially cruel, massive attack on Ukraine. Russia used 54 cruise missiles, 30 ballistic missiles, and 3 Zircon hypersonic missiles, and 2 Kinzhal air-launched ballistic missiles. Russia also launched intermediate-range Oreshnik ballistic missiles, one striking the Kyiv region, while another reportedly fell in the temporarily occupied territory in Ukraine's Donetsk region. In addition, around 600 tank drones were used against Ukraine. Many of them were Shahed types, and the same Iranian designed weapons that have already shown their destructive power in the Middle East and Gulf regions when used by Iranian forces. The rest of the letter then went on to explain that because of the significant strain that the armed forces of Ukraine find themselves under, they are starting to run out of critical interceptors such as the NASAMS and the Patriot PAC-3 missiles and PAC-2 missiles that have been provided to them in the past. The letter goes on to ask the United States to please provide them with some Patriot missiles because they desperately need them for their defense, and this would not be a permanent ongoing request because Ukraine is actively working to create their own surface-to-air missile defense system that will be able to do the same thing as the Patriot, but be indigenously designed inside of Ukraine and not require U.S. support to continue to see that these air defense systems are operational. A lot of people are starting to wonder whether or not this will be followed through on and the U.S. will be willing to support the Ukrainians, because it seems that the current administration has a lot more deference for the Russians than they do the Ukrainians at this point, although that's clearly a completely misplaced sort of a notion or belief to think that the Russians are any better than Ukraine.
Hell, this is for defense. This isn't even an offensive weapon. So it's like even if the U.S. has an affinity for Putin and Russia, which it does appear they have that for whatever reason we don't know, but this is for defense. This is for protecting Ukrainian civilians, like normal everyday people in Ukraine that simply want to just live their life and not obviously get smashed by a missile. It's like, this is for that. So it's like, surely we can come up with like some missiles to provide Ukraine to protect the civilians, because we do it for everybody else. We do it for Israel. We do it for the Gulf states. Why would Ukraine be an exception?
Well, you never know. I have a feeling there's probably definitely going to be an exception out there for this, because we have seen that support for Ukraine has been very non-existent for the larger part in the current administration. And some people will say, "Oh, that's bullshit. We're still giving them 400 million." 400 million is nothing. I'm going to put that down in the strongest terms. 400 million isn't shit in war spending. Like, that is a happy meal basically for a war. That's not going to do anything for anybody, and that's non-existent token support. So hopefully we'll see that they do provide some sort of support, because, I do find it kind of a little interesting, folks. Some countries in the Middle East can get an endless amount of support from the United States, basically free of charge. But the Ukrainians that are actually doing us a humongous service in fighting a conventional regional power directly head on, and we find it hard to even give them an inkling of support. I find that to be somewhat odd, I would have to say. A little bit questionable to me. And I would have to say that if we didn't give them this kind of support, why aren't we, and what kind of loyalties may possibly exist in some elements of the government to not provide Ukraine, which is doing an incredibly good service for us in Europe right now, the kind of air defenses they need to continue on their fight against the Russians as effectively as they can. But moving us on out of that, we've also been able to hear, additionally, that Russia, according to Zelensky, will intensify mobilization, and in addition, the political leadership of Russia has set the task of increasing the occupation contingent, and we were talking about at least tens of thousands more. Tens of thousands more sounds like a great deal, but with how the Ukrainians are chewing through them, tens of thousands more will only last the Russians about another month, and then they'll be back to square one where they're at right now. So I'd have to tell y'all, the mobilization looks to be bringing in some numbers, according to the Ukrainians, but it's not going to be anything that really helps out the Russians a whole load. On top of that, materially, the Russians are just spent beyond belief at this point. If you can even get tens of thousands more Russians, like, say, 40 or 50,000, which is about a month and a half worth of casualties in the war right now for Russia on average, you can't even really equip them with anything anymore. You might be able to find some rifles for them, but beyond that, they're short on everything else, and it's not really looking good for the Russian strategic position any longer, so mobilization can only go so far before it becomes pointless. We've also been hearing now that the Ukrainians are believing that, and also the Institute for the Study of War is now assessing, that the involvement of Belarus in the conflict is probably not going to end up being overt. So it looks like there might be enough of a threat at this point that the Ukrainians have made that the Belarusians now backing off of direct ground action starting on their territory. Apparently, the Russians are going to start using Belarus as a drone launching base, if anything, to be able to try and launch new drone attacks from a different vector that Ukrainian air defenses generally aren't directed towards. So that appears to be what the Belarusians might be allowing the Russians to use their territory for in the future, and that also is giving us a pretty decent understanding at this point that the Belarusians must have gotten scared enough that they're starting to back off, and we're not seeing that they're willing to allow an offensive to be conducted from their territory on the ground, or that they're willing to enter the war directly and try and conduct their own offensive on the ground somewhere, somehow. We've also been able to hear, additionally, moving us on out of this area and actually moving us out of sequence, to get to the major news that we've heard of today in southern Ukraine. The Russian Federation is actively retreating in this area. Now, I do have to say, folks, it's not a humongous landslide kind of a loss of land. It's a square mile here and a square mile there, but generally across the whole front, we're seeing that the Russians are seeing some of their frontline holdings being eroded away. And from what we know, it isn't really because the Ukrainians are engaging them and pushing them back. It's that sustained combat on the active front is too hard for them to be able to continue due to their lack of supplies, and so they're retreating to try and give themselves a little bit of breathing room to where they're not engaging Ukraine as heavily on the daily, to try and restore their arms and stock supplies behind the line, to see that a continued conflict could keep going for those specific battalion tactical groups that are now retreating in this area. According to some, including the head council of reservists, Tomochka, he stated, a huge stutter right there, that Russian army is retreating in the Zaporizhia and Dnipropetrovsk directions for the first time since 2023. And it's becoming quite clear at this point that the Russian Federation is starting to run into some significant problems down here. This is also giving us an idea that the supply side situation is a lot more desperate than we actually anticipated. It was believed that the Russians most likely had emergency supply stores in this area that would probably be able to last weeks, and if they stretched it, probably a couple of months before we even started to see significant telltale signs that the front was running dangerously low on supplies. However, we're starting to see right now that the front is running dangerously low on supplies, and there's already the telltale warning signs that the Russian front could be incredibly fragile and near to the verge of collapse, because the battalion tactical groups are taking it upon themselves to retreat, to be able to try and engage the Ukrainians less, to try and conserve ammunition. They are running dangerously low. The quartermaster of that unit has apparently reported to the battalion commander, at a minimum, in multiple different areas of the front, that if they continue at their current munitions consumption rates with the resupplies that they're getting, they will quite literally run out of all ammunition in the very near future, and therefore actions must be taken to mitigate ammunition consumption and to be able to try and conserve it as much as they can. So this is clearly showing us that right now the Russian army is in a desperate situation, and if the Ukrainians are able to engage them and burn out their ammo, they might actually be able to achieve a breakthrough down here within the next several months. We've also been able to see that some artillery crews of the 225th Assault Regiment were also pounding the Russians with their artillery here in the southern front today, near to the Wheelapal front. This footage did come out from the 225th Assault Regiment, which was operating the artillery within this front. We see them loading the charge and the shell, aiming, and then they make it to their bunker next door, so that way if a drone attack happens, they won't get hit. And we can see the M777 firing and then impacting the site dead on the nail. But that's the end of that clip, but still showing us a little bit of the artillery work of the 225th Assault Regiment. In the meantime, a lot of people are talking about this frontline tremor that we've seen today, where a decent amount of units are starting to lose a little bit of ground. Not a whole lot, I want to make that clear. It's not humongous losses. It's little losses, though, that are giving us a sign across the whole front. And Matt, what are people making of that right now, and what are you thinking about that as well?
All right. So now that we're seeing that for the first time since 2023, that's several years ago, by the way, now Ukraine is saying that Russian forces have started retreating in Zaporizhia and also in a couple other regions as well. And once again, it's not massive retreats, but the fact that they're retreating whatsoever is the first time it's happened in several years. So it's a big deal. So what is going to happen next? 60% said Russia will continue retreating, and 18% said this will be temporary only, and 13% were in between and in the middle. And I'll say that this is a bad sign. It's like the tremors right before a megaquake happens. That's the way I'm taking those. The Russians are having a multitude of problems piling up all at once. They're having a gasoline shortage. They're also having a logistics shortage. They're having a drone shortage. And Ukraine is the exact opposite. Ukraine's ramping up their drone production. They're also putting a lot more effort into the Zaporizhia region. So it's like a perfect storm at this point. They're basically right in the middle of a hurricane that's about to hit. So I would say the Russia will continue retreating. These problems inside of Russia aren't going away anytime soon, and it appears to be getting worse really quick. And we'll get to that gasoline shortage information pretty shortly in just a minute in the news cycle. But I'm with the 59%. I think this is a sign of bad things to come for the Russians. But also, on one hand, while that is good for the Ukrainians, it is going to put Putin in a new situation because he's also facing some bad approval ratings. Also, he's facing some possible civil unrest. And this might exacerbate that because now Putin's going to have to call up a mobilization to try to combat this off. So I think this might push Putin to do something crazy, which what I mean by crazy is it could mean that they start launching those drone attacks that the ISW is warning about from Belarusian territory, because we have heard that Zelensky's warning about that as well. So they all can't be lying. I mean, the ISW, Zelensky, the Ukrainian intelligence, they're all saying the same thing, so there's got to be some truth to it. But Enforcer, what say you?
I have a feeling that the Russians in their current situation are going to see that this front will inevitably collapse. We don't know how bad that collapse is actually going to become once it happens, but they're definitely going to be losing a lot of ground in this area, probably several hundred kilometers at a minimum once this Ukrainian counteroffensive is underway, or once the Russians just run out of ammo to where they cannot put up any effective resistance. All of the elements within this front that would be needed to see a collapse of that type are here. There's no ammunition getting to the front. There's hardly any food or water getting to the front. There's no fuel anymore in the entirety of the southern direction to be able to support logistic maneuvers or armed maneuvers by Russian units to be able to keep their tactical edge against the Ukrainians on the actual battlefield if they needed to. None of that exists, and it leaves an army in an incredibly weak position. The troops are still there, and they still have some ammo, but if the Ukrainians engage them and they had to get into an extended firefight, they're going to burn through ammo that they don't even have to replace anymore on that front, so they're going to run out. Ukraine, on the other hand, from what we know, is not in that kind of supply situation, so they would be able to keep the firefight going longer than the Russians could, and once you run out of ammo on the battlefield, you're a sitting duck. There's nothing you can do. The Ukrainians are still going to be laying you low with their own gunfire, and you basically have two options. You can either sit there and die, or you can give up and surrender, or there's a third option. You can try and retreat if that's possible. Regardless, though, this front is going to be collapsing at some point here in the future if nothing changes, and there is nothing that can change. Russia doesn't have enough anti-drone nets to lay out on every single road in this area, so there's no way to protect all of these supply trucks in the rear line. So the Ukrainians have created what we would call a checkmate in this area. There's really no way for Russia to counter what they're doing to them right now, and it's going to create catastrophic results for the Russians here in the near future. But we actually have more breaking news coming out right now. So what do we got?
Okay, so believe it or not, we've actually just gotten a video alleging to be from the area of Bandar Abbas that was struck apparently multiple hours ago by the U.S. forces. It's purporting to show that. So let's take a look at the video. Also, by the way, the attack on Kuwait might still be ongoing. It looks like a plane is now turned around and been redirected away from Kuwait. So it could be an ongoing attack that Iran's conducting. We just don't have any more details on it, but it looks like flights are being redirected. So let's take a look, though, because let's see if this is true. This video right here is allegedly showing the U.S. strikes. But let's take a look.
Oh, there was an explosion, a second, and a third.
I hear a lot of fighter jets. Damn.
There's 4 explosions.
That appears to match up with the anecdotal reports. They said it was 4 loud, massive explosions, which is what we heard in the video. They also reported fighter jet activity, which we could clearly hear in the background. There was a lot of fighter jet activity going on, probably several jets in the sky. So that appears to be an authentic video. It lines up almost perfectly with the stories.
Yeah, it lines up exactly with them, and whatever the hell they were dropping, they were like right overhead. You can literally hear them over the airport.
Yeah, that's wild, actually. Let's see that video one more time. I need to hear that again. Pause the video for a second. That projectile, was that a projectile? Was that an air defense projectile, or was that one of the missiles coming in that we see right there in the sky?
I think it's a missile because it flew right into the angle and direction where the explosion came from right here. So I think it was
interesting.
I think it was a missile.
So if this is Bandar Abbas, that means the person filming must be looking toward the port from some area nearby. They're looking inward toward Iranian territory, and they're not looking out toward the Persian Gulf.
So where this guy probably was with how this clip was filmed, he's probably somewhere around the Khaliji Fars hospital, because if all of these explosions are correct and they're at the airport, he was looking somewhere around this way, and then you saw that missile apparently pass over the city in this direction, coming in kind of at an angle from the Persian Gulf, and then hitting somewhere on the airport. So I'd assume that that's probably where the cameraman was at.
Yeah, and let's see here. The official story from the United States officials that made a statement about it. Let me go back and take a look here. They were saying that they struck, they hit some drones that were coming in. They're also saying that they launched an attack on a ground unit before the Iranians were able to launch a drone. So, what are they saying here? That the Iranians are launching drones from the middle of Bandar Abbas, like within the city?
I guess. Oh, well, I guess they were launching them from the airport, maybe? Because if they're hitting the airport, maybe that's where they were launched from.
Maybe so, possibly, but that's kind of interesting. Those are, I don't, what kind of missiles is the U.S. using? They're clearly being launched from some fighter jet, maybe F-18, F-35, or something like that. I don't know what they're using. Those are some huge explosions.
Oh, we got so many of them. I wouldn't really know off the top of my head. It could be a myriad of different types of missiles. But it is quite interesting footage, I will have to say that. Like, I don't really know how much more I can elaborate on it and keep it factual, because most of it would just be, just pie in the sky kind of guessing work on my end. But, I mean, those were some loud explosions that came from the airport. Let's listen to them again.
It's like shaking the entire city. Like, it's literally shaking the buildings.
Whatever it was big. I don't know what it was, but it was large.
Yeah, I would say so. I could only imagine what the damage looks like at the actual point of impact. If it's shaking buildings down the way, like blocks and blocks and blocks away, that must have done a number on whatever it hit.
I have a feeling they're probably hitting air defense forces around here. That's what I'm thinking. Because it doesn't really make a lot of sense they launched the drones from an airport, Like, you can launch those really from anywhere. You could launch them right off the side of the highway. So why in the world would they have it set up permanently at an airfield to get hit twice in the past 72 hours? That's not really adding up to me.
We don't know much, but we do know this is fire, and we know this is not cease.
I tell y'all, folks, and this ain't ceasing. They sure as hell firing. Man, I tell you. But don't worry, everybody. The U.S. officials going to come out again and tell y'all, because they believe in the real truth, that this thing's still an ongoing ceasefire, and this don't have nothing to do with it. Folks, I never, I've never heard, folks, at a police barricade in, a hostage situation, if, the hostage taker is, firing at the police out of the window, they go up to the media and go, well, he's firing at us, but generally, the ceasefire between us and the hostage taker, it's still in effect. It's just that he's voicing his frustrations right now by firing the gun. If anybody else said that in any other scenario rather than this, folks, everybody would call that person unbelievably stupid. It's just crazy how whenever anything has to deal with a political person, like someone from the right or the left, then half the country says, even if it doesn't make sense, that it's clearly, the ceasefire is still clearly in effect, and then the other half says that it isn't. It's interesting with that. I find, I think, folks, that we should conduct some social experiments with that. Very interesting, fascinating kind of psychology at play there. I don't know what kind, but very interesting. But moving us on out of that whole deal, it is time for us to move on and into the rest of our news that we had in southern Ukraine, because we have some more big news to cover down here. Not just what we saw with the Russians slightly retreating on the front, we also got to see that some Ukrainian drones were on the hunt for Hunt Brothers Pizza. Oh, look at that right there. That looks like a couple of juicy supply trucks to me. Oh, Briaga.
Is this on the rear line highways, logistics truck?
Da. Oh, boy, they got it. They got the cutter. Oh, but moving us on from that clip, we also got to see more supply losses on the highway. They got another Ural 4320. They got this Ural, and it actually flipped in the process of getting hit. And then we also saw whatever the hell that is, I don't even know, that thing also got destroyed as well. So it does appear that the Russians are losing a lot of supply vehicles back here behind the lines. And we also got to see that the Ukrainians conducted an attack on the supply hubs in Mariupol as well last night. Take a little gander, fellers. These people out here snitching. They with the Rat Pack. Fa! Man, but anyways, moving us on from that clip, we also got to see this one as well. Weirdly enough, no audio in any of them, but we can see the explosion right there on the supply hub. Oh, probably. The Ukrainians are hitting stuff, and this guy's dragging rebar through a pebble pile. We also saw, moving us on out of Mariupol, that there's another major problem that's happening down in this occupied area of Ukraine. Down in the area of Melitopol, the gas has run out pretty badly. There are queues over a mile long at some gas stations that have gas left. Most gas stations do not have any gas of any octane available at this point in most parts of Melitopol. And from what we're hearing, this is now affecting the entirety of the region that is under Russian occupation, that's in Zaporizhia. So this is getting very bad. And also this means that supply trucks might be making one-way trips because they might not have the ability to refuel to be able to get back out. Because diesel is also around this availability as well. Just look at that.
Pretty rough. It started in Crimea and it's now spread to pretty much all over the place. I'm hearing of rationing, also the prices going up, and some areas just don't have gas at all that they're selling, so they're just completely out.
Man, look at this, man. Look, they said octane 100, peace. Octane 95, boy. Octane 92, pesh. I don't even know what the hell this means, but those aren't prices, I can tell you that. So they don't have fuel at that gas station. We also got to see that down in Crimea, same problem, different location. Every single one of them has no fuel. They've run out of little like tags they can put on the fuel pumps to say there's none. So they had to get out a slip of cardboard and just write no on it, meaning that there's no fuel in any of the pumps for any
Damn.
octane.
They just talk down to people like dogs. Like they go for the gas handle, they're like, no.
Okay, you can have a little. There's literally no prices up either. The gas station is literally out of gas and diesel of every type.
I'll tell you what, their pockets are getting real light, real light.
Man, they ran out of gas. They told me I needed tough skin.
Yeah, I think the Russians have enough tough skin to run around already with.
Man, I heard, man, they have such tough skin, man. They're going to be running their cars like Fred Flintstone.
Yeah, I think they're already doing it.
Man, we also got to see that down in Sevastopol as well, just to cover some of the damage from yesterday's attacks, that it does appear the Russian Black Sea Fleet's aviation headquarters was hit. The thing was charred to a crisp. Also...
Oh. Damn, Brandon, so it's true. They actually did hit it. They literally burned out the entire interior of the building. I wonder if there are any, commanders or anything that was here. I didn't hear about casualties out of the building.
I didn't hear about that myself, but they definitely blew up the headquarters. Also, I like this truck that is conspicuously has a big piece of construction paper on the side of it and the word water, and that's it. What was this thing doing before it became a water truck? Because that logo wasn't on there normally. They had to tape that on. Was it a septic truck? I don't know, but something about this isn't really vibing right with me. We also got to see some more proof of this as well, and some more pictures and videos showing the aftermath. Oh, but the roof is gone. We also got to see here the fire that had been continuing on the Naval Aviation Headquarters for the Black Sea Fleet, once again showing the facility had been destroyed. We also were able to confirm that the port of Tuaps did come under attack last night, and we got some footage of them hitting the oil loading pier. Oh, they have that music. They got that good music, that loud. But you can see the FP2s hitting right there and knocking that thing out nice and good. Oh, buddy. Moving us on out of the damage that was inflicted in yesterday's attacks, it appears that some Russians were also very displeased with how the air defenses are working in Taganrog. As they stated today, Yuri Borisovich, the residential areas in Taganrog are suffering, and the targets are military installations. We, the residents, understand perfectly well that the target was a military airfield. Previously, it was a drone production facility, and everything would have been fine if the missiles and drones had been shot down over these installations or as they approached the city, but electronic warfare is diverting coordinates, and civilians are suffering. The Ministry of Defense must pay close attention to this and not allow civilian casualties. even to protect military installations. We must not be shy about speaking out about this. We must defend the city as it approaches, not shoot it down over the city, and if they've already missed, then let them hit the military installation, but let the civilians survive. So what the Russians are doing...
What was this dude born yesterday or something like that? Talking about the Russians worried about civilians. We need to speak out loudly about this. What are you, crazy? Like, you speak out loudly like that, you end up real loud in a window or something like that in Russia. This dude acts like you just born yesterday.
What the hell does this guy think this is, the United States? Oh, man, like, this is stupid. Like, this guy here, folks, is complaining that the Russians are using electronic warfare to curve Ukrainian drones into residential buildings instead of letting them hit their actual targets. This guy he fell off the wagon literally yesterday, clearly. We also got to see some more strike pictures that came out. Once again, showing those drones that apparently were diverted into residential buildings. Poor little fellers. So sad. So sad. It's a tragedy, really. But there's a bigger tragedy that happened before we get on into this poll. Because while the poll is talking about the gas shortages, I'll tell y'all something, folks. The Ukrainians are not short of gas at all, and they be gassing up Russians every day of the damn week. Out there in the Caspian Sea, a Ukrainian drone, by great fortune, found a Buyan-class corvette underway and blew it up. Like, from what we can tell, the damage was significant enough that the vessel might have been abandoned. We're not entirely sure yet, but it looked pretty damn bad after the first hit. Here's the first hit onto the superstructure. Boom! Blam! Oh, dude, it's cooking!
Oh my God. Dang, man. They hit that thing bad.
And it gets better. This one goes for the front turret, and you can actually see a couple of Russian sailors running to the bow. Vadim, the bridge is on fire. What do we do? As the next drone comes in right for the turret base.
Dang, man, they finished this thing off. They ganged up on it like a pack of wolves. It's sketchy as hell to be in the Russian Navy these days. I mean, between the sea babies that was hitting everything, including the submarines, and now just this thing out here in the middle, like you didn't catch a stray easy.
Man, honestly, man, man, the Ukrainians believe in equal rights and lefts, and they're giving every single one that they can to any random Russian military unit that they can find. Even ships in the Caspian aren't safe anymore from directly being attacked and destroyed by Ukrainian FP2s. But before we move on out of the into the rest of our news, which is mostly frontline news, and also a little bit of news out of Moscow today, a lot of people are talking about this critical fuel shortage that's now gripping the rear lines in the southern front in Russian-occupied territory. And Matthew, what are people thinking is going to be caused as a result of this, and what are you thinking?
Okay, so now that we're seeing that the gasoline shortages are spreading to several different regions, they started in Crimea, then they spread to the outskirts of Moscow near Tver, and now we're seeing them in Melitopol. They're spreading there now too. So they're obviously not staying stationary. It's not static. These shortages are getting worse and they're spreading pretty rapidly. So will this become a crisis? 67% said yes, it will get very bad soon for Russia. 17% said it's a 50-50 chance that it does escalate, and 10% said no, it will remain isolated. And like I said before, the moment these gasoline shortages start hitting the Russian mainland, Russia is in trouble. That means that the refineries are not able to keep up with the demand. They can't refine enough petroleum to become gasoline, and they're having shortages. Not to mention, by the way, that they can't even get the gasoline to the frontline soldiers because they can't get logistics through the Russian rear lines to the front lines where the Ukrainians are currently fighting and battling the Russians. So I think it's going to get very bad. It's not a problem just for the military. It's also a problem for the civilian population. So this could bring their situation to a much, much deeper hole, I guess you could say. But Enforcer, what say you?
This is going to be getting horrendous very soon. I'd be with the 67%. I don't even think I need to explain what's going to be happening to them, but it's not going to be good. Nothing that's going to be coming out of this fuel shortage and supply line situation in the rear lines is going to be good for the Russians. Very beneficial for us and for Ukraine. For the Russians, this is literally the doomsday scenario down there on the southern front. Moving us on out of that, we also got to see that in Moscow today, the Russians whipped out one of the rarer Mi-26s and also some shitty music as they were dropping a
What
new...
the hell?
What the hell?
What the... Is that, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but is that a helicopter with an air defense system going to the top of a skyscraper?
Yes.
What the hell? Bro.
It's not just any helicopter, it's the biggest one in the world. Like, they're having to lift this tiny air defense system up with the biggest helicopter on the planet, the Mi-26.
That's crazy. I thought it was bad enough when they were putting them on the top of those scaffolding towers around Putin's mansion. Now they're putting them on the top of skyscrapers. That's crazy.
Let me see, folks, if I can show y'all the Mi-26's size compared to other helicopters, because this thing is unbelievably large. Like, okay, so this is probably a good example right here. That's a Bell 206, which is the Weatherman helicopter. That's the Mi-26 side by side. To give a little bit of a comparison.
That's crazy.
Look at this. That's it next to a 737-200.
That's massive.
Look, it is well, I don't have any more size comparisons of this thing, but it's huge, to say the least. That's what you can get from this. It's a giant helicopter. But they had to use the size of this helicopter to try and drop a pantsier air defense system onto the roof of the skyscraper. And honestly, it looks like it's about to drop it right off the side because of the winds.
What, they just drop the thing and it goes straight through the roof?
Man, honestly, man, the Russians would cover that up and say, the Ukrainian terrorists, they dropped a pantsier. like a Looney Tunes cartoon.
They got pantsed.
Also, the system they were putting on the roof is this one, which is a cheapened up pantsier without the sear part. It's just the pan.
Look at that. Why are they doing this, by the way? Isn't that a little bit too high to like intercept like stuff like drones coming in on the low?
Yeah, but I don't really know why they're doing it, Matthew. It's Russia. They're stupid. Like, I can't explain everything they do. I don't know why they're putting it all the way up there. Maybe to get it a better field of view, or maybe, I don't know. It's stupid. The Russians are stupid. This thing is stupid. I mean, they literally put this thing on like some like steel box girders, and that's all it's sitting on. That's its support post. So I guess if the thing turns 90 degrees to the left or right and tries to fire, since there's no support struts down there, it just flips itself over from the recoil, I guess. So it can only be used straight forward or 180 degrees to the rear. Everything else might flip the thing over, possibly. So a pretty stupid air defense system.
Yeah, I think this might be a bad idea. I just have a hunch.
You know, I think they have a hunch. But it's not anything that'd be meaningful. I think they have a hunch they need more booze. But definitely
That's not a hunch. That's a guarantee. They definitely need more booze.
Man, that pilot up there, man, while he's battling those winds, he's battling the winds with one hand, and he's got a bottle of vodka, and he's downing the whole thing with the other. Like, really, Russian Air Force at its finest.
Man, he's fighting two battles at once: alcoholism and the incoming Ukrainian attacks.
Man, this guy sounds like he's drowning up there, man. You just hear him going glug glug glug, glug glug. He's up there trying to go out. He's trying to get that liver poisoning fast. But moving on from that bit of news in Moscow, it's now time for us to get to a little air defense clip out in the northern part of Ukraine. The Ukrainians did shoot this drone down, but it came dangerously close to some farmers that were filming this. Here's the clip.
Oh my God, do you see all that fertilizer right there? Look at all that fertilizer, man. That's like millions.
They are so lucky
Holy
it didn't
moly.
land right there. They would have been vaporized, man. Like,
Yeah, geez, man, this guy was lucky as hell. That's basically probably the dude's net worth right there in those fertilizer bags. That is a crazy amount of fertilizer. Also, the farmer just kept working, bro. He didn't even stop.
bruh, it's like they just have this ungodly amount of fertilizer. Like, this is probably enough for like 3 planting seasons. They got it all in the field right when this drone went down. But also, if y'all didn't notice this is an important thing to note. There's a farmer moving around right out there, basically where the thing exploded, and he did not stop. He meant them fields getting plowed, and damn it, it's today. He just kept going.
It's like, it happens all the time.
And he's like, damn, the rain these days, it's crazy. But it's like, man, honestly, big respect to Ukrainian farmers. Literally, no matter what, if they're in the occupied territories or if they're still in Ukraine, hell or high water, them fields are getting plowed, and the harvest is going forward. Like, they are not stopping for anything. Those people are made of steel. But moving us on out of that whole deal, we also get to see in the location unknowns something quite interesting. The Ukrainians are now attaching S-5 unguided rockets to the FP-2 attack drones they're using for long-range attacks. We haven't seen this used yet, but S-5 unguided rockets are in humongous numbers in post-Soviet republics like Ukraine, and because of that, they're now attaching them to the Flamingos to see if they might be able to do a rocket strafing run before they finally hit their target. So just adding a little bit of extra damage to the FP-2 Flamingos and their longer-range strikes. Pretty cool to see. Moving us on from that, we also got the Russian casualty report. Holy moly, 3 Bobcats! What the hell, bleed?
Whoa. Honestly, that must be them heading around the rear lines, like on the highways and roads and stuff. They must be heading those in addition to the trucks.
I think so. And according to Mr. EC, Keeper of the Records, artillery, May 1846 total is now the highest month of the war. Oh, that's for the whole month, sorry. 271 auto and fuel tanks is the 15th highest day of the law, slightly over a recent average. 3 special equipment is average for recent 3-week streak, and 10 ground robotic complexes is tied as the 5th highest. Average is 8 a day for the new category. And over the past 24 hours, we have been able to confirm that 1,000 Russian soldiers have been wounded and killed. 3 APCs. Oh, way! 271 supply trucks. Damn! 1 main battle tank. Oh, my lord. 39 artillery pieces. Good God. 1,307 drones. 1 MLRS. And also 3 Bobcat skid steers. Damn! So it was a pretty good day. Moving us on out of the casualty report, we also were able to hear, moving us on and into the front line area, that near to the Svatove front, a Russian SPG got flattened. There it is, folks. It's a Gudzivka. Actually, it's the Kisya. Sorry, everyone. The 2S one's Gudzivka, but it's about to get obliterated anyways. It's about to turn into scrap, so it doesn't really matter. And there they are. They're still on the move. The Ukrainians are just watching them. Oh, it's come to a stop. Why? Why? Oh, there was a little explosion behind it. Oh, what's going on down there? Don't tell me there's about to be a double tap? Oh, wow, what the hell's that? Oh, the motorbike just started skittering away as quick as it could. It knew what was coming. And
oh, look, it's a motor car. It's a little...
Well, that thing's snap, crackling, and popping just like you is right now, man. Just look at that thing. That thing is smoking. Looks like the engine couldn't take no more.
I'm tired, boss.
Man, I'm tired, boss. Oh!
Oh, my gosh. He's gone, boss.
He's riding the lightning! Man, I tell you. Oh,
I couldn't hear
damn.
anything you just said, by the way. Like, you just went completely out.
Oh, it's all right. It wasn't nothing important. It was just, hooting and hollering for the hell of it.
Man, I just woke up, man, doing all this hooting and hollering.
Man, I tell you.
Wasted, bro. Come on. Hey. Man, wilding out, putting wasted on that. Crazy as hell putting that on there.
Man, that thing's wasted just like GTA 6's release date. It ain't ever coming out now. Oh, man, like, that British guy, man. That guy who murdered someone and he got arrested by the police? And he was like, I'm gonna miss GTA and all that. And then the cop said, which one? He said 6. And that guy said, oh, you got ages for that. Like, man, like, honestly, he wasn't wrong. Like, it's been ages and it still isn't out.
Yeah, really. He's onto something there. He might be a truth teller.
Man, big shout out to the British police in that clip. They kept it honest with that guy. He really does have forever. Like, he can get his whole life sentence done and somehow survive to be released or put on parole in 30 years. And GTA 6 still probably won't be out by then. But moving us on past the area of the Severonsky Forest and also Seversk and the Konstantinivka front, as we didn't get any footage from those areas, we did get to see that on the Konstantinivka front, activity was going today. The 59th Assault Brigade was doing their thing and making memes as they go. Why do y'all make fun of the Russians getting mogged on in Ukraine? Meanwhile, the Ukrainians make memes out of the stuff, so I don't really know what you want me to do about it. If I cry harder, folks, does that bring them back to life?
It's a war. What the hell are we supposed to be doing? Sitting here, like, crying about it every day? It's a war. Ukraine's fighting for their survival. So, I mean, if you can't take it, folks, don't watch. This is war news right here. This is what it really looks like. It's ugly.
The hell do you think this is? Hollywood? Like you have the moment to sit there and go, oh my God, that was a person. Yeah, it's a person in the Russian army. Damn shame he was. If he wasn't, he would probably not be there right now. But it is what it is.
It is what it is, they say.
Oh, boy. Oh, they got an artillery piece, boy, in the trees and a tank. They got that Porovi Sklad VK. That's a ground vehicle, by the way. They got another Russian position. Oh, Bliet. That's an ammo fire right there.
Also, by the way, apologies, people. I do have a typo there in the poll. Like I went to post it. I was tweaking the title of it, the question, and then I realized I effed it all up. So let me retype that real quick where it makes sense, where it doesn't sound like I'm like possibly a presidential candidate having a stroke. Let me try to redo that real quick.
Excuse me. How will be in make like man? Like,
How will be man turn over the world in the next 6 months? You go.
This is Chinese show of God. You go! Anyways, moving us on and into the southern flank of Pokrovsk, we also get to see the 152nd Jaegers taking out some Russian drones over the skies of Pokrovsk that were either attempting long-range strikes in Ukrainian logistics or were attempting reconnaissance gathering. These sorts of actions, while fairly mundane and very common these days, are incredibly important to maintain the operational security of the Ukrainian forces on the front. Ooh, and they've been knocking out millions of them. I mean, damn. I tell you what. I mean, damn. If only the U.S. could do this to Iran on the Strait of Hormuz, we'd be in good business. Cooking it up Gary's way.
That's why you gotta be careful picking on Ukraine. They just might do it to them.
Man, bro, like, man, Ukraine at the beginning of the war, man, they were out there with, like, that optimistic music, that one that goes, dun, 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 dun. They were going, hello, we are your friend. Will you help us? 4 years later, they show up, you hear the Doom Man music. I hear that Iran is making problems, and we're here to solve them. It's like, man, the Ukrainians have evolved a lot in the recent years. But moving us down to the Novopavlivka front, we also got to see the Ukrainian drones of the Phoenix unit also doing their part to the Russians. This guy tried to chuck a rifle. I like how they use this AI zoom and enhance technology to really give you an idea of what this looks like. Apparently this guy's got a mouth in his balaclava. I didn't know he was wearing a living balaclava. That's kind of rare. Looks like they won't be adding that to the freak show, though. Wasted. Then they found this guy in a trench. He's trying to hide, a little crafty. This guy was in a field. That's a bad idea.
It reminds me of stupid, like, you know, those, like that video, those HR women, like, that made that video. They're like, secret product in a trench. Like, stupid crap like that. Have you seen that?
I heard they all got fired because the company, they're creating more problems than they were worth.
That's a shocker right there. Standing around making TikToks on the job, get you fired. That's a shocker. But man, that was a secret resident in the trench right there. I guess you could call him that.
man, HR in that company was creating so many good jokes that the HR to the HR had to hear that one. Like, it's like, damn, that's something. But the 5th Brigade was doing their work down there on the Zaporizhia front, keeping it real. We also got to hear, speaking of which, outside of the southern front, and on up in Kyiv, that the speech from Zelensky sounded really good today. Here it is. I actually thought we had a little bit more news in the southern front, but we had already covered it earlier. So it's time for us to get around to this sweet, sweet speech. He's wearing that Ukrainian drip today. He's drip-tastical. But nevertheless.
But yes, it's a nice new shirt. And I'm sure the people will say, it's like a brand new Bugatti. It's like buying a Gucci shirt and Gucci flip-flop. It's a strange thing.
I wear this while I style on the Russians. While they're running out of gas, I've got nothing but drip in this gas. but anyways, without further ado, here's the speech. Speech.
Бажаю здоров'я, шановні українці і українки. Перші сили спеціальних операцій сьогодні день ССУ. Я привітав воїнів, я вдячний кожному нашому спецпризначенцю за хоробрість. Сили спеціальних операцій – це справді один з найбільш сильних, славних і просто крутих елементів українського захисту. Дякую вам. Дякую, хлопці, за зустріч. Дякую, хлопці, за вишиванку. Була сьогодні також детальна нарада з головнокомандувачем ЗСУ Олександром Сирським, з начальником Генштабу Андрієм Гнатовим. Я погодив їм нові наші далекобійні операції. Це те, що потрібно, щоб у Росії з'явилось відчуття, що за війну їм доведеться платити своїми втратами. Російська нафтова галузь буде і надалі скорочуватись, якщо Росія обирає війну. І бачимо, що є ознаки того, що російське політичне керівництво шукає шляхи компенсувати втрати на фронті. У них зараз угруповання окупаційне скоротилось. Вони розсилають зараз так звані мобілізаційні розпорядження у більшій кількості, скликають росіян на так звані військові збори, додають ще інші шляхи, щоб продовжувати цю фактично приховану мобілізацію у більшій кількості. Ми інформацію дамо партнерам. Це чіткий аргумент, що тиску на Росію замало. Була доповідь СБУ генерал-майора Хмари, зокрема і щодо внутрішньої безпеки тут в Україні. Ми продовжуємо операції проти тих, хто обрав не Україну, а допомогу ворогу. З ними Україна буде жорсткою. Ще кілька речей. Сьогодні я говорив з Урсулою фон дер Ляйн. Я вдячний за підтримку. ППО – перший пріоритет. Ми готуємо також і спеціальний формат з Європейським Союзом «Дрон Діл». Це дуже перспективний формат. Без України неможливо уявити безпеку Європи. Були сьогодні в Україні з візитом і представники Конгресу Сполучених Штатів. Це важливо, що Америка Україну підтримує. І американські представники тут, в Україні, вони бувають, вони бачать на власні очі, що відбувається, які є загрози. Тим більше після того, як росіяни завдали особливо жорстокого, масованого удару у ніч на неділю. На цьому тижні я підготував спеціальний лист. Лист президенту Сполучених Штатів і Конгресу. І вчора лист вже був направлений інституціям у Вашингтоні. Це буває рідко, що лідери іншої держави звертаються так, листом одночасно до президента і Конгресу Сполучених Штатів Америки. Але ситуація зараз така. Треба діяти оперативно, діяти результативно. Важливо, щоб Америка Україну почула. Ми розуміємо, що багато глобальної уваги зараз війні в Ірані. Потрібно припиняти і війну тут, в Європі. Війну дуже криваву, яка триває вже 5-й рік на повномасштабному рівні. І чим швидше ми зможемо дати більше захисту від балістики, тим швидше ми зможемо зробити так, щоб дипломатія спрацювала. Поки Росія покладається на ракети, її інтерес до дипломатії не справжній. Ми маємо це виправити. І можемо це виправити тільки разом з Америкою. Україна вдячна Америці за всю підтримку, буде ще більше вдячна за достойний мир і гарантовану безпеку. Все це можливо, якщо буде достатньо рішучості. Дякую всім, хто нам допомагає. Слава Україні!
And with that, that is the end of the speech from the President of Ukraine, President Volodymyr Zelensky, here on this day of 1554 of the War News Stream. And it's time for us, folks, to move on and into the second segment of the stream, where we get to talk to each and every single one of y'all. And boy, howdy, folks, are we going to have a lot to talk about, a lot of interesting things. But before we move on, folks, I do have to say that Zelensky's speech is by far the number one best way to get the bots in the chat out into the open. As we always say, folks, them bots be like Pavlov's dogs, a bitch for that stimuli. But with that in mind, it is time for us to be moving on and into all them questions that we got. We are going to be able to answer each and every single one of them, all the super chats and as many live chats as we can get over the next, hour and 15 minutes or so at this point right now. So we are going to be having an absolute blast. And I got to thank you all so much once again for watching the show for so long. Y'all been here for quite some time, 2 hours and 15 minutes. And at the peak, we had 19,000 of y'all here tonight, and 104,000 of y'all have watched this stream already. A humongous shout out and a huge thanks to every single one of y'all once again for spending your time here every night to get the news. And with that in mind, Matthew, what do we have on this poll? And what are people thinking about it? And what are you thinking about it?
Okay, so let's address this poll right here. It's more of a existential question, more of a bigger picture question, not the little picture. I'm not talking about that little 6x6. I'm talking about that big one, that 12 foot by 12 foot picture, that big picture. What will be the main concern in the world over the next 6 months, in your opinion? Can you do a little crystal balling? 59% said a global economic recession. That'll be the main concern. 25% said the expansion of major wars, and 11% said nuclear weapons usage or WMDs. And on this one, I would say that the biggest concern that I could see over the next 6 months is the global economic recession. That is the biggest one. The Ukraine-Russia war is going to keep escalating in its own way, but that was already going to happen. The new emerging threat is the global recession. That's the emerging threat right now. It's economic. And that can be more damaging than a nuclear weapon, depending on how bad it gets, at least in my opinion. So the Strait of Hormuz, if it gets reopened before July, we might be able to save the situation and salvage it. But if it's closed after July, I think the world's going to be in for something they hadn't seen in a long time. At least in this century, we've definitely not seen it quite like that. So I'm with the 59%. But Enforcer, what say you?
I'd be with the 59% as well. That's definitely the most pressing problem that we're probably going to be seeing inevitably happen at this point because of the blockade in the Hormuz. So I hope that does address that the best I can. And with that, what do we got, Matthew?
All right, so moving on from our poll here and moving into our super chat questions and our live chat questions as well. Also, by the way, for everybody asking about the breaking news, right now I'm not hearing anything else about Kuwait. It appears to be the attack must be over, or we'd be hearing something else by now. All we know is the Iranians did take responsibility and said they specifically targeted an American air base, it looks like. So that's what we know right now. I want to see how the U.S. responds to it. Right now, no response as of yet. But moving into our first super chat here of our last segment, this one is going to go to none other than Mark Harris. And thank you very much, Mark, for that very generous $200 support. A massive smackaroo right there. And we do appreciate it very much, Mark, because that's extremely generous. And we do appreciate it. It does keep the channel running. And Mark said, I don't understand, as a U.S. Marine, also thank you for your service. He said, why we don't just take the damn strait with full 360 envelopment, Marines on the shore, airborne and Rangers from the rear, Navy prep fire on the shore for the Marines and Air Force over the top. What the hell? And Matt, we should collab on music. Hashtag Marine musician. Oh, that's pretty cool, by the way.
Wow.
What instrument do you play? I wonder. I wonder. Me personally, I play percussion instruments. Unfortunately, though, sadly, I had to leave my drum set behind in Alabama, so I don't have my drum set anymore. Also, I've probably gotten a little rusty because I don't know if I can even play as good as I used to. I used to be able to play the drum set and pretty much like every, like the timpani, bass drum, snare drum, xylophone. I could play all of them pretty decently. But it's been a long time, though. But that is pretty cool, though. If I still had it, I would try. But Enforcer, what say you?
And I gotta thank you so much for the incredible support. And also, that's really cool to hear that you're a Marine musician. I don't really think there's a lot of Marines with that MOS. If you were actually a Marine musician, like not just a musician that was a Marine, but a Marine that was a musician, that is actually really cool. And I would have to say, Mark, your bewilderment at it is as big as mine. We just don't get it. And of course, you know, we've brought up the drone threat, and there's ways to mitigate that with how the doctrine or tactics at play on the ground could take great effect in mitigating casualties, even in our current situation with no built-in hardcore defenses against drones like we have right now. But I just don't know why they're not willing to do that. I would say the best answer that I could give is that the administration is paralyzed with indecision and fear, which is nothing new. Like, you know, a lot of people would say that it kind of blindsided them on this, but we've watched them do this, folks, for the whole of a year and 5 months now. And it's nothing really new when you watch it from an analytical side of things, because they make all these grandiose claims, these grandiose statements of how great everything is and how great they're doing and how easy it was, and none of it ever ends up being true. Not speaking on the domestic side, speaking on the foreign policy side, all of that ends up being completely untrue. They either fall very short of what they were planning on doing, or if they actually try and follow through with something, they achieve basically nothing, and then they make it sound like they just moved mountains. And this is a kind of situation that we're seeing right now. Apparently, they had no concept when they started this war that it could last longer than 3 days, and that they were going to be in it to win it if it did last longer than 3 days. And I think that's where all of our problems are stemming from right now, Mark, to answer that question, is that they've been completely blindsided that it didn't last longer than 3 days, and it's turning into an unmitigated disaster at this point, and they have no clue in hell of how to fix it, because no matter how they fix it, folks, it's going to be very unpopular. If they put Marines on Kashem Island, some of them are going to die, and that's going to be very unpopular looking, especially, and you know, not to weigh this into politics, but this does have an impact right now. The midterms are coming up, so any extremely bad blunders that could lead, that, like, for example, heavy losses in the Marines on an island that they're occupying could be looked at negatively. But if they also do nothing, the economic damage that they're causing is going to be looked at negatively, and that could also impact voters in the upcoming midterms. And so no matter what way they're looking at it right now, politically, as far as the popularity and if a vote could be swung from how they handle it, they're going to lose either way. They either reopen the strait at the cost of American lives, which is probably going to end up being pretty unpopular and possibly losing them seats in the upcoming election, or they do nothing and the economy continues to plummet like it is right now, and then a lot of people are very unhappy about that, and then they vote the way they vote. So I think that's generally what they're caught up on, but they ought to realize at this point that no matter what, considering that either outcome's going to end badly, at least for them politically, as far as votes are going to be coming up in the midterms, then they ought to take the action that's going to benefit the country the best, because it's not like they're going to get a positive outcome either way. It's going to hurt them no matter how it goes. So at this point, they ought to just go with what would be the most strategically viable for the country, which is conducting a military action like you and I are talking about, Mark, reopen the strait and see that the shipping lane resumes normal operations, because that's our only saving hope at this point of turning this whole thing around. Otherwise, people are going to be dealing with some tough times here in the country. But a humongous thanks to you for support and help this channel to keep it running, and I hope that does address that incredibly well. And a humongous thanks to you for the incredible support and help this channel to keep it running. And not to brag, Mark, but Matthew played the drums, but I can play harmonica. Like it's amazing.
Man, I used to be able to play like all of it. Everybody's saying, "Well, Matt, what did you used to play?" Like on the drum set, like I played like various songs. I played a few mainstream songs on there. I used to try to like listen to songs and then like try to play the beat like just based off the sound of it. I knew I wanted to play drums like the moment I was going to join. I was actually in a band in high school at one point. Actually, it was middle school actually. I was in there, so I knew I wanted to play the drums the whole time. So I went straight for that, tried out for it, instantly got it, and I was with all that stuff the entire time I was playing all of that. But you know, I see people saying the xylophone. I could play the xylophone pretty solidly. It's basically like the bells version of like a piano, basically to a different degree. So it was pretty interesting. I played like all the auxiliary instruments, timpani, bass drum, stuff like that. But the newest instrument I play as a percussionist is the glockenspiel. Ever since we got those death threats, I've been keeping that glockenspiel on me.
Man, I gotta tell you, like he's pretty good. Like he's pretty good with it.
You gotta know how to play the glockenspiel, man. It just makes one sound, a pop, pop, pop.
Man, it be a smooth sound though, plasticky though, but very smooth, crisp.
It's an instrument.
man, somebody in O Block right now going, man, I can play it too. Like, man, it's like, damn, hey, calm down. But beyond that though, I saw someone say, yeah, you can play bagpipes. Well, that's not Matthew, that's me. Like that's my instrument thing. When I got into band in middle school, I actually played the trumpet, which honestly I wish I kind of continued, but for some reason, somehow, some way, I ended up getting pretty bad bronchitis from playing it, and I had to quit. So that was kind of a lame thing that happened. But outside of that, then I moved on to the bagpipes, which was the next instrument that I played, and I played those for years, but it has been a minute. I would say at this point, it's probably been 4 years since the last time I played them. So it's been a very long time on that one. I can play the accordion, I can play the balalaika, which is a kind of a Russian 3-string kind of a guitar deal. I can play the harmonica and a couple of other instruments. So I was a big one for playing instruments. I love playing instruments. It's always really fun, but finding the time and also the place to not bother people to do that these days is very tough, especially with bagpipes. Bagpipes are extremely loud, so that's why I haven't really been able to play them over the past years, and that kind of went eventually to the wayside. But still, I hope that does address that somewhat well. And also I see some people saying bagpipes are a hard instrument to learn. Not really. Like, I don't know, maybe because of my experience with trumpet, I think it's easy, but not really. It's not extremely difficult to play as long as you have strong lungs, which I had super strong lungs. You can actually learn that in a couple of weeks, really, and kind of get a good hang of it.
The hardest instrument I've ever learned to play, I can play the piano a little bit. Like I can kind of play, I can read the sheet music for it because I had to read sheet music anyway. So I can read the sheet music for piano and generally pick up like basic chords on a piano. But for some reason, the piano just never clicked. Like I could click on percussion instruments like drums and stuff like that, even the xylophone. But I remember like I took piano lessons in high school, and the piano teacher was always like, trying to like helped me out with the piano and stuff like that. I just never really clicked with it. So instead, the dude was trying to get me to go into the choir because he was like, that voice in the choir would just be so fantastic. It's such a nice bass sound.
Man, he
And I was
told me
like,
that too.
I'm damn
Bro, that guy
not
was
going
trying
into
to
the choir,
recruit us
bro.
so hard.
Bro, I'm like, I am not going into the choir. Every single piano thing or lesson I would go to, the dude was like, you sound so good in the choir. I'm like, bro, I'm not going into the choir, bro. I'm not doing it. You can forget it. I'm gonna master this piano if I ever go to the choir.
I think you and me, man, were the only bass voices in that whole school, no joke. And that guy, folks, was obsessed with trying to get us in that damn choir. I remember one time, folks, I had to go in there because some teacher was like, hey, I need you to bring this thing to the choir teacher. Could you go down there really quickly and do that? And I was like, yeah, sure. So I did it, and I went in there, and the guy acted like I had just arrived, like, and he stopped everything and looked at me and went, whoa. Are you related to Matthew Blevins? Oh, and I was like, yeah. And he was like, yeah. Well, you've got a voice for the choir. Let's try this out real quick. Try and sing this note. And he was like playing the lowest notes on the piano, and I was able to hit him. And he was like, you've got to join the choir. And I was like, no. I was like, I don't want to join no choir. I was like, I don't want to be in the choir. But I mean, we can both hit pretty low notes. Like I kind of bump my register up vocally a little bit on air because it gives me more range up and down to speak, and it makes it sound more. Well, I mean, everybody knows our government name, right? Don't they?
Yeah, I mean, just out my government name like that. Just putting my whole like government name out
Man,
there. Look at you.
I'm not gonna lie, man. I got so caught up in telling the story, man. I realized when I said that's why I went. I was like, oh, I was like, ooh. Well, I mean, we both had the same last name, so I mean, it's kind of out in us both. You know, we's brothers and all. But well, anyways, outside of, I mean, there's whole like hit piece videos on us out there with our whole names in it though, so I don't think it'll hurt too much. But beyond that slip up though, I just had a Bushism on air. But beyond that slip up, that choir dude was really trying to get us in. Remember, Matthew, in the middle of that tornado that ripped through the town, and it like destroyed that church. We were clearing out stuff, and he had somehow driven his car into like the damage control zone, and like was driving it back. What the hell was he even picking up from that place?
Hell if I know. He apparently had something he was picking up from that little neighborhood over there in the South. No, he was desperate to get to it, whatever it was.
Yeah, you're like, hey, it's the choir teacher. Oh man. But
like, bro, turn around, bro. You're driving straight into the freaking like wreckage of a freaking like EF3 tornado. Like you might want to like turn around. There's like bricks in the road.
Man,
I gotta go there. I gotta go there. It's like, well, what the hell do you need so badly out here? It's like he was like having withdrawals.
He was like fiending to get there. Let me show you what this place looked like before the tornado, because this is what the city looks like now. Honestly, man, this place is so bleak looking. Like nowadays, it looked way better before that tornado came through. So let me show you what it looked like before then. So this is what the town looked like before the tornado. Dude, this actually looked pretty decent back then. Like on this side of the river, this wasn't too bad. This church was the oldest one, I think, in the whole city. It was built in the late 1820s, believe it or not, and it was still standing. The roof had been replaced, obviously, and there was also extra wings that were added, but this was the oldest church in the city. Tornado came through in 2019. It was an F3, ripped the whole church up to shreds, literally tore it into splinters. So the oldest church in the city got completely destroyed. And so then it looked like this, giving you all the 360 view here. And then after the tornado, this was the next time Street View came through, this is what it looked like then. And it had destroyed everything through this stretch on this side of the river. The church was rebuilt, but this is now a replica. It's not the real church from the 1820s. It just looks like it. So outside of that, though, we actually have breaking news coming out of this moment right now. So, Matthew, what do we got?
Okay, so we have some footage coming out. I believe this is from Kuwait, it looks like, near that U.S. air base in the area. It looks like we're seeing possibly an incoming Iranian projectile of some sort, or maybe an air defense interceptor. I can't tell. Let's take a look at the video and see if we can determine what this is.
Could be a Patriot.
Sounds like some gyros pulled up in the background.
And then also, that's a picture, I'm guessing, of Ali al-Salim. Oh, well, it's not Ali al-Salim, though, because this is a smaller one. Because if you look at Ali al-Salim, it's massive. Like, this is Ali al-Salim. Yeah, I don't know what the hell this is supposed to be, because that's not a part of the airbase.
Yeah, I'm not totally sure. I also can't determine if that's a Patriot or if that's an incoming missile that was coming in. I would assume that's an interceptor missile of some sort.
Maybe that's the IRGC facility at Bandar Abbas.
You think the missile would be at a trajectory like that at Bandar?
Oh no, no, no! Like they fired the missile that was going to the Ali Al Salim air base from Avaj, like the Khuzestan province. But maybe this picture is of the facility at Bandar Abbas that the U.S. hit earlier. Maybe, but it doesn't really look like it lines up exactly. So I'm kind of doubtful on that. I don't actually know what that picture is supposed to be of, the one that they have attached, because it doesn't look like Ali Al Salim and it's not Bandar Abbas. So I have no clue what that is. But this little clip here does show us a streak of some sort of a missile, most likely a Patriot attempting to intercept whatever was coming in.
Yeah, it does appear to be the case. So that's an interesting piece of footage.
Very interesting, to say the least. And so with that, I hope we have addressed your question incredibly well, Mark, and a humongous thanks to you once again for support. And with that, we're on to the next one.
And we also have a very generous support from Eric Brown, who also, guess what, throws in a 200 himself as well. And a huge shout out to you, Eric, for also throwing in that crazy, wild support right there. And we genuinely do appreciate that very much. And Eric said, we didn't start the fire. It was always burning since the world's been turning. Oh, damn. He put it on us. They said, we didn't start a fire. No, we didn't light it, but we tried to fight it. But oh, goodness, how I wish the last generation learned how to not start fires for the next generation to put out.
We didn't start the fire. That's something that you could say about every generation. Oh man, like those World War One people in that generation really screwed over the next one with the Treaty of Versailles. I'll tell you that. But beyond that, though, I'd have to say that's true. We didn't start the fire. The fire's been burning since the world's been turning. That's very true. We live in interesting times, folks, and everybody before us has lived in interesting times. It's just our moment in time to pick up the torch and carry on the struggle, as Winston Churchill put it, for our beliefs, our nation, and our way of life. So it's just the kind of strife that we have to deal with. And will it ever end, folks? Will there ever be peace on this earth? No. I can tell you all that. With certainty. There's never been peace on the earth, and any concept that any war in the present day is truly going to bring an everlasting peace is a misnomer. There has never been a war that's done that, and I don't think there ever will. So, big thanks to you for support and helping this channel to keep running. But I got to tell you, the fire's been burning since the world's been turning, and it ain't going to stop anytime soon. But a humongous thanks to you for that incredible support and helping this channel to keep on running. Because if it wasn't for folks like you, Eric Brown, we wouldn't be able to keep this thing running. We wouldn't be able to keep that news rolling, and we wouldn't be able to get the news out to all these fantastic folks that come here every night to be able to listen to it. And so a humongous thanks to you so much once again. And with that, we're on to the next one.
And we also have a $100 support from Deniable Ghost, who threw in their second support of the night, by the way. And thank you very much, Deniable Ghost, for that also extremely generous $100 support. We do appreciate that. They said, Cuba, no threat, it's real estate. 90 miles off the coast can be the largest detainment center than all of the current locations, and no one wants in their town or location. Easy steamroll, no rules to follow, minimal cost, and out of sight and out of mind. Now that, I don't know if it's going to be an easy steamroll. Like, I think people are saying that. It looks like it could be because, of course, their military is extremely weak. But we can't underestimate the probability that things could go wrong if, like, for example, we try to occupy Cuba. The Cuban forces could mount some guerrilla warfare tactics on us, and then we're stuck there, and then we're in a bad quagmire. So never underestimate how things can go sideways. It can go sideways. So I'd have to slightly disagree on that aspect. Also, by the way, I don't know if people knew this or not. Did you know that Guantanamo Bay was not the first location for the detainment center? Did you know that?
No. Where was it first?
The CIA originally wanted to put this down at the very bottom of South America, actually. There's a small island there at the very bottom of South America that is home to an abandoned prison. And I think it's this one, actually, right here. They wanted to put it down here because, like, literally nobody's going to think that there's a secret, like, black site prison or something like that way down here. Nobody would imagine that. So they wanted to put it here, but the catch is, though, the country wouldn't let us put it there. So instead, we said, okay, let's just go back to Cuba, and we'll put it there at Guantanamo in the Bay, and that's where we ended up putting it.
Guantanamo Bay. I hear there's a lot of vacation options there. A lot of things pertaining to water and bards. Never knew they were the surfing type of people out there, but really crazy stuff, honestly. You know, that whistleblower guy who told about all that stuff, the enhanced interrogation programs and whatnot. Very, very interesting stuff. You know, he always talks in this way, and then when he gets to something important, he talks like this. Oh man, it cracks me up. It really does, you know. Crazy how he always has a new crazy story coming out these days. It's interesting. But beyond that, though, I would have to say, it being easy, I would have to agree with Matthew. Easy isn't easy as people would think it, because an easy thing would be Cuba collapses in like 2 months once we start an invasion, and then we have to occupy it for like the next 4 or 5 years. Like, and that's what easy really is. There's no such thing as nowadays, especially if we're toppling a government, you invade a country and within like a month or two you're just out and it's over. There's no way that would work. It takes a long time to stabilize a new government, to found it in place, to build up the kind of apparatus it needs around it, to keep itself running and also keep itself safe. That's very hard to do, and that's why I'm saying that Cuba's totally pointless, because this is going to be about a 4-year or a 5-year long commitment at the shortest, probably, and that's a complete waste of money, time, and resources to really achieve absolutely nothing in terms of what it would actually be worth. Cuba's worth basically nothing in the modern day, and it's not like anyone else is using it, because it's not like the Chinese are building bases in Cuba or the Russians are, and if they're not doing that, or they're not planning on doing that, then it's just not a big enough threat, in my opinion, to really justify any sort of military action. But I do thank you incredibly for that massive support and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
Also, by the way, speaking of black sites, by the way, does anybody know anybody that's ever actually stepped foot on the island of Diego Garcia in the Indian Ocean? Like, have you heard of anybody that's actually, like, that you know of that's actually been there?
Generally not.
I haven't, me personally. I mean, that's one thing I realized yesterday. I was like, I've never really heard of anybody like that has personally been here. Like, you know, they don't let civilians go here. Like, you're not allowed to go here as a civilian, and it's very secretive, this location here. But it's like, I don't even hear of any service members or know of any service members that have even stepped foot here either.
Yeah, I think it's just such a rare thing to go to, because it's not a huge facility. It's pretty small. So I think that's probably why you don't know of anyone. And also on top of that, if they're there, they're probably there on some sort of a classified operation. I mean, they probably won't be able to tell you that they were there. Unless if they were in the Navy, maybe, because, you know, that wouldn't be classified.
Yeah, it just seemed like such a strange thing. It's like they're sworn to secrecy. If you go here, you're not allowed to talk about it or something. Because there's clearly people that have been here, but you'll never hear anybody ever admit now that they've been there or tell you anything about it.
Man, meanwhile in Britain, oh, those poor natives that were displaced from the island 100 years ago, they long for home. We're going to send them back. We're going to give up the whole damn island. It's like, man, that was a pretty dumb one. I'm not going to lie. That one was pretty stupid. But
he was fighting off those commie vibes. Yeah, it was setting in. He couldn't hold back.
Man, he was sitting there, man. He was sitting there after he said that, man. He just had a long pause. His mouth was like slightly open where he looked confused. And then he said, you know, when I go to sleep at night, I don't see anything. It's like nothing. It's just blackness. You know, so y'all see stuff when you sleep. I don't think when I'm not talking. It's just something I don't do. It's like, why the hell is this guy the prime minister? Like, it's like, what the hell? Like, I gotta say, folks, what is up in the modern day and political people being like the weirdest whack jobs y'all have ever seen? Like, it's an international standard these days, no matter who they are, that they're just weird as hell. Like, that guy apparently doesn't think or dream, like the Prime Minister of UK. And then over here, the health secretary dude just, like, went and grabbed a whole bunch of black racers off of someone's porch the other day, and they were, like, biting him and shit, and because he grabbed him by the tail. And he's sitting there, like, just...
He picked up a rattlesnake today.
Oh, he did?
Yeah, he caught one and put it in a bucket.
Also by the tail or by the head?
No, yeah, he tapped it at one point to try to get it in a net. He like brought out like a butterfly net and grabbed it.
I gotta say, is this... I feel like this guy needs help. Like, I'm just saying from an outsider's perspective, it doesn't sound all right to me.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if I should be more scared for the rattlesnake or him.
well, with that guy, I put the rattlesnake in a box and then I shook it around really hard to see if the rattle
Man,
would start rattling.
honestly, man, I was debating whether or not I should be worried more about the snake. Honestly, I was sweating for the snake. I was like, this thing could be in deep trouble.
I'm about to turn this thing into the first snake-based glue that you ever seen. You want to watch it? No, I'm good. All right, well, here we go. Like, just start shaking the box around. Like, oh, man.
The snake sees him coming and it immediately starts having like visualizations of being thrown in a trunk of like an old caddy or something like that. It's like, I gotta get the hell out of here. Slither. It's like, gotta get.
Oh man, oh my lord. And and then you got like it's just so weird when you think about it, folks. Like everybody out there in the world right now that's in charge of a country or is in the government somewhere, all of them are just such whacks. Like I don't get it. Like why in the hell are there no normal people anymore in the government? There used to be normal people. Like I would have to go as far to say, folks, that people like Bush and Obama were like maybe controversial. Some people didn't like them, but at least they were like normal, like they acted like normal people. Now we have like people who like grab snakes like it's just nothing,
You don't think that's kind of baller though? You just grab snakes and let them bite them. Like he's
Hell
kind of
no.
baller for that.
Hell no, that's psycho. Like that's just bizarre. Like
Yeah, but that's what we need though. We need psychos. We need psychopaths, people that'll just get out there and pick up snakes by tails and stuff like that
that's
and
what they
everything.
want you to think. That's like we do not need
Man,
psychos.
I tell you, the doctors hate this one single trick.
I'll show y'all how to get a damn sick ass infection. Doctors hate this shit. Check it. Like it's like
Yeah,
them things. Oh my god.
You know what's crazy? You know what's crazy to me is somebody was trying to tell me yesterday. They're like, "Hey man, stop with all that hate and stuff like that and everything about that dude and stuff like that." They said, "Do you really expect the person who's leading the health department to be a person that's in the health industry like a doctor?" I said, "What are you crazy?" I said, "You don't need to be a doctor to be the administration of health person. Like you don't need to be a doctor. Come on."
I mean, honestly, man, like we ought to get one of those women from college that's like big into the healing crystals and make them the health secretary at this point. I mean, like it wouldn't be any worse.
Yeah, it's like it's like being the transportation secretary and you never even drove a bus or a truck.
Bro, it's like having the transportation secretary be some guy that crawled out from under a rock that still rides on horseback in Nebraska. It's like, that ought to be our transportation secretary. He clearly knows much about it. Or better yet, let's have the Secretary of the Navy be from the Palm Beach Breakfast Club, and his only experience, the closest he's gotten to the Navy, is taking a boat ride out of Miami.
Yeah, or it's like the person that's in charge of the urban housing and development have never stepped foot in a Section 8 housing development in their whole life. It's like, should they have stepped foot in a Section 8 development? Probably so, to know what they're doing. But, it's okay, though, if you have no experience. It's on-the-job learning. It's really funny. Like, these top government positions, there's pretty much no companies out there anymore that'll take people on that's like, oh, we'll teach you on the job, except for, the trades. I think they might still do that. But most other jobs are like, bring 5 or 10 years of experience with you because we don't want to train you at all. And meanwhile, the government, the top positions for that is like, no experience required. Anybody's welcome. You just come in and we'll train you on the job and you get paid big bucks, big money. It's like, should they probably have a little bit of experience in what they're doing? It's like, also, it was absurd. I remember Ben Carson. He was a neurosurgeon, very decorated doctor. If that's what I don't know if decorate is the right word for a doctor, but he was a very
Man, he got that
accomplished
Medal
doctor.
of Honor for that brain surgery.
He was an accomplished doctor. Let's put it that way. He got put in charge of the housing projects. It's like, I'm like, it probably should have been in charge of the health department, not the housing development.
Here's another thing I got to say. You know what's even better? Let's make the FBI director some random podcaster who has basically nothing to do with criminal justice at all.
And then he leaves to go right back to podcasting because he realized that shit ain't worth it.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's incredible. We'll pick like random ass people to run these government departments. They don't need to have any interest in what they're being put in charge of. They don't need any experience. They're just there to be there. That's how the government's run these days. And I saw someone say, well, to be in charge of NASA, you have to have gone to the moon or something. It's like, well, no, but it's like, if you're putting someone in charge of, say, space exploration, maybe it's good to get somebody who's interested in that and maybe has some background knowledge in it. Someone from NASA, maybe, to move up the ladder. Or, another one. For a director of the FBI, maybe somebody who's a career professional or is a retired person who was very knowledgeable in the handlings of federal justice at the
Yeah.
hands of the FBI. Maybe those kind of people need those government positions. That way those departments are run a little better.
Yeah, and also hot take, but anybody that spells their name with a dollar sign for the S needs to be immediately like taken out of the running for the job. Like that needs to be an immediate disqualifier. You cannot spell your name with the dollar sign in it, or you're not qualified.
Also, I got another one, folks. I got another one. When the next administration comes in, this is the real banger, folks. It doesn't matter if they're Republican or Democrat, okay? This is going to go for anybody. When the next administration comes in, let's take all of the famous faces from Congress, which are dumb as rocks, and let's just start giving them government positions. Like, it doesn't matter what background they have or anything. It just give it to them. They're popular. I mean, what the hell is wrong with that? Popularity is what wins, everybody. To be the Secretary of the Navy, you don't have to care about ships or those goofy guys that wear those white uniforms. What do they call them? Seamen? That's so stupid. You like, look, you can be like a farmer from Illinois and never set foot on any body of water, and you can be the Secretary of the Navy. It makes sense. It just makes sense. You know what's even better, folks, is like being the President of the United States and having no understanding at all of how the government or the law functions. That's probably like the best one. Like, that's the greatest. Because then they
I'll
can
tell you. Oh, go ahead. I thought you were
they
finished.
can do whatever they want because they don't even know what is acceptable and not, and kind of warp everything to however they wish. That's an amazing position to have right there. But what were you about to
Yeah.
say?
Also, by the way, there's one talent right here that all, and it's not just this current one, by the way, but if all your people that you're picking have a habit of getting on their knees and walking on their knees and stuff like that, it's like maybe they ought to be on their own 2 feet. Like maybe they can stand up for themselves and stuff and give an independent opinion without feeling like they have to kowtow like the entire time. Like these people are supposed to be advising. They're supposed to be experts in their field, and they're supposed to be at liberty to say what they have to say to make sure they're abiding by what their job requires. So that's probably also another good thing too, like independent experts that take these positions that aren't just yes men and people that walk on their knees.
I got, honestly, that's a great one right there, folks. If you've got an ability to be very handy with a corn on the cob, then you can get any position you want. As long as you can grovel and kiss ass enough and do everything else, you've got the job.
Man, yes, that can be the test when they come in for the like the job application and the interview and stuff like that. They hand them a piece of corn on the cob and they say, "Eat this corn. Go ahead and eat it the way you want." If they eat it the long way, they're disqualified. And if they eat it the right way, which is like it's like like what's the other way to eat it? By the way, like
Man,
what do they call it? Just eating the normal way, I guess the way to
sideways.
I guess to say it. Yeah, side. Oh Lord.
Oh, better yet, folks, if they don't eat banana like ribs, they ain't getting the job. Like, oh my god, oh man, you know what? And what's oh man, folks, there's so many things that we can do. There's so many things that we can do here. Here's another great one, folks. Instead of picking Supreme Court justices in a way that hopefully will represent the nation's the interests of the citizens, let's pick them for no reasons. Like, let's just pick random people. Like, they don't have to have any political affiliation, any idea of what they believe is best for the country, their own perception of the rights of the citizens. Just anybody. I say, folks, the next Supreme Court justice should be an unmedicated mental patient from an asylum. And we ought to put him in there just to see what happens. Because, these days we run everything in the government like it doesn't matter. So, what would that hurt? If the guy starts saying that there's demons in the walls of the Supreme Court building, I mean, shit, maybe we'll get an interesting Supreme Court ruling out of that. I don't know. Shit, what worse could we do at this point, And, oh, here's another one. I got one more before we move on, folks. This one's the real trick. Instead of investing in our country and improving the common lot of the citizenry by, maybe using the taxes towards the interests of the citizens, we ought to go and start throwing money at just anything else, literally anything. If there is a wind that passes over Israel that was just a little bit too strong, we'll give them 20 billion. If there is, say, for example, something that happens in India, like, some guy just trips and falls on a bad sidewalk, 30 billion on the spot. Like anything and everything except investing inside of the United States. Like there are some things that I would say in terms of foreign funding well within the interest of the United States. Others though, it's like, come on, it's like we're literally just throwing the money to the wind sometimes at this point. Like what was even the point of that one? But anyways,
hot take, folks. What would y'all think about something like this? Because me personally, I'm of the belief that our entire political system is currently broken. What about this? What about a third party that's actually viable? Like one that doesn't care about like, oh, this person sucks, that person sucks. They're pointing fingers at each other. How about one that just puts all that crap aside and simply focuses on the real issues and is charismatic, but focuses on the real issues and says, screw the two-party bullcrap that keeps going on like literally every single election cycle, and let's just focus on what matters and actually make the changes that actually work for everybody that aren't, kowtowing to foreign interest. It's like, what about that? Obviously, you'd have to get funded by the citizens because that's the only way you're going to get supported enough to win the election, perhaps. But I feel like at this point, like a viable, charismatic third party, strong candidate would have a good chance these days. I think that would be the best case thing because the whole this party versus that party, the two party thing, that's not working. Like it's broken. It's not working anymore. I think most people can agree on that. A third party is needed. That's actually viable. Not the ones that currently exist. They don't have it in them. Like a new third party, Bull Moose.
What about the party of the LSA?
Well, it could be, but it would have to probably be a little bit more serious.
What, are you saying the LSA isn't serious? Well, you just changed the name, keep the symbolism.
Well, I mean, at least Spring Army. I mean, I'm not sure if you're going to appeal to everybody with that.
You just changed the name, Matthew. Didn't you just have me? Hello? I said change the name, and he said at least Spring Army. I don't know if that works. Yeah, it doesn't work. You change the name, but you keep the symbolism.
I mean, you could. You could call it like something. You'd have to think.
I have an idea. The People's Republic Party.
That sounds scary as hell. I don't know about that name.
The National Democratic. Hey
yo.
Damn, everyone's taking all the names that sound like democratic, and they're definitely not. Let's see here. The Party of Progress. The POP.
What about like the Rhino Party? Well, no, you can't use that one. Actually, can't use that one.
Yikes. Let's see here. What
about the Freedom Lovers Party?
How about the Green? How about the Green Party? Because they're all about that grind.
A Green Party, yeah. I think there is already that. That's already a thing. Yeah. This is tough.
It's a tough one. How about the Whigs?
What about the Supreme Party?
How about... Trying to think of one. I mean, there's so many people.
What's that party that dude Vermin Supreme's part of? You know that dude, that crazy dude, Vermin Supreme
Party.
What's that one called?
Like, I don't even think he has a party. I think he's literally just doing his own thing with that. I got an idea, folks. Party. I got an idea, folks. How about that? Let's see, what's it called over in Britain? It's the Brexit Party. Yeah, let's do that. And then when they finally get Britain to leave the EU, then they don't do jack shit, and it's basically like they're just in the EU, but not. That really made a lot of sense. Kind of they lost all the trade benefits they had being in the EU, and then gained nothing from it. That was a really smart one. But I'm really drawing a blank here. Maybe Matthew, we ought to call it the Political Party of Citizens of the Republic of Latter-day Times.
That sounds kind of a little bit questionable.
We're going to create a promised land, see? It's like it's going to be in a place called Desert. Let's see here.
The only way to win, since they already have those young men going door to door, you can simply tell them when they're there, give them the first pitch about the church, give the second pitch about the party.
I got one, the Apocalypse Party. Every day, we just tell everyone the world's ending.
Too late, they've already taken that idea.
Damn, yeah, that's the Republicans and the Democrats. Shit, what we gotta be creative, people. How about, I got one, Matthew. How about the Tea Party? Because like the Tea Party in Boston.
What does that stand for? TEA? The Entertaining America.
This enough already.
Man, the Tea Party's gonna teabag their opponents on the debate stage. Look at this. You never seen nothing like this before.
I actually got one. I got one that actually could work. The Liberty Party.
Yeah, sounds close to libertarian.
Damn it! Look at man! Oh my god, this is
How about
impossible.
we just do away with the idea of a party at all, and we just say, this is America.
Don't you get tripping, though.
I realized after I said that, it sounded like that song after I said that. I was like, somebody's going to do that, and you did it.
I got one. The Tough Skin Party. How about that? Man, how about this
I'm fed up. I'm done with this shit party.
Man, they got me on that Galaxy Pack party.
What about the Unpublican Party? Since they have the Republican, what's the other one? The Democrats. Let's see here. I think the Unpublican that has a little bit of a ring to it.
The Federal Party.
The Federal Party. I don't know. I don't know about the Fed.
Man, we federal and we party. Man, get that Henny up in here, man.
What about the stuff our pockets and screw the American people party?
Oh, Matthew, that's already the establishment.
Oh,
I mean, they already got that one.
That's the umbrella. That's like, you know how like companies have like those like little like sister organizations. They're like, this company's a part of the umbrella group. It's like, that's what we can call those, like the two parties that exist now. That's like the umbrella group. The Screw the American People Party.
I got one because we're like a community, right? And like we're all about supporting the people of America. Communist Party.
Oh, damn.
That one's taken.
Yeah,
Is
I think
it?
so.
Damn. I mean, you know, like the whole.
What about the Critical Political Theory Party?
How about the NASCAR Party?
No.
How about the Common Sense Party, like Jay Merge just put in?
The Common Sense Party, I kind of like that one right there. That would be CSP. I don't know about that.
Cause, man, like it's that damn.
We're on the cusp of a victory.
Man, you would have to put like Common United Sense Party, so that way it'd be CUSP when you put in an abbreviation. But let's see. Oh man, let's see here. So the Social Nationalist Party. No,
no. What about
I read
the
that.
People's Democratic Party?
Yes, the Democratic People's Republic Party.
That is true.
The DRP.
That is true. That is true. Could you imagine all the foreign billions of dollars coming against that party? Oh my goodness. Every country in the planet would be pouring money to the United States. The United States talking about, we have free and fair elections. It's just that every country on the planet pours billions against whoever they don't like.
Man, you know what we ought to call it? The Party Against Foreign Lobbies. That's how you literally get everybody to dogpile you in like 2 minutes. Like every single country on the planet, we're putting in $3 billion into anyone who's running against them. Like anywhere. Like, dude, you could run for like a representative seat, like one of the only in Nebraska, and they would put like $4 billion up against you. Like it's like guaranteed. Oh, I got one. That certified real shit party.
That could be. Let's see here. What about the United Front Party?
That's what the Chinese are doing to Taiwan right now.
I know. That's not great.
How about that low-level coercion party? Like, or that diplomatic party?
What about let's see here.
How about that non-war military activities party?
What about the SAW party? Like shock and awe party?
Man,
that's not SAW, actually. Wait a minute. Shock and awe.
How about that Shaka when the walls fell party?
Man, what about the Diddy party?
Oh, hell no. Man.
Free lubricants for everybody.
Man, the slogan is, free baby oil for all. Man, it's like,
nobody will ever be unmoisturized again.
Man. Damn, let's see here. Some people, the Orbit Judgment Party, that's not bad. The United Federation of Planets? Like, is it Star Trek? The Logic Party? And that one wouldn't win people over. They would become the party of emotions, probably in like 20 years.
People saying, ew, bro. That's the whole point of the joke, the Diddy party. Yeah, that's the whole point.
There's one party that we haven't mentioned yet that's similar to that, but we can't mention it. Like we can't say it. But so we'll just Matthew.
What about Americans Against the Island party?
Oh, that's a good one. That would probably get you.
He's just an island boy.
Justin, oh bro, that'd be like the slogan. I'm just an island boy.
That's what they can say about all the guilty ones that went down there. They can say he's just a little island boy.
I don't think we're going to be getting an answer to this, folks. Tonight, at least on how to name a party. Let me go look at some political party names here in the United States right now. Political parties of the U.S. Oh, look. It's just the Republicans and the Democrats. I'm just kidding. There's a couple, but not many. Well, tell us who we have today. Oh, here we are. Oh, well. We have the Libertarian Party, the Green Party, the Constitution Party. Never heard of that one. The Alliance Party, the Vermont Progressive Party. What is this, Bernie Sanders? Like, I feel like this is literally just him.
He's a socialist.
Well, he kind of just flip-flops whenever he needs to. Like, some days, he's like an FDR thing, or it just depends. It depends on who's being marketed.
I like how he does the bouncing ball trick when he talks. He said, we're going to do the bouncing ball. That's what we're going to do, the bouncing ball.
World War 11.
You see, that person's an example of an ignorant person.
You see, 1% of this country owns half of this country's brains. If we did some equal distribution, maybe we could stop World War 11 type shit. Like, on God. Man, like, really. But, well, anyways, we've run this one in the ground, I think. But I hope you all have had a blast with it. I mean, I've been having a real hoot with this one. But with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, so our next support here is going to go to none other than Rosalie Love. And thank you very much, Rosalie, for that $20 support. They said, without you guys and the LSA, my brain would have exploded a long time ago.
Well, I'm happy to hear that we keep some sort of mental fortitude and play things down to be a kind of a joke, like it kind of is these days, so that way people can tolerate it, like you, Rosalie. And I thank you so much for the support, because you're helping us to be able to keep covering this news as we do every day, kind of like a joke. But a huge thanks to you, and with that, we're on to the next one.
We also have here a $20 support from John Tango, and thank you, John Tango, as well for the support. He said, buy yourself a couple of Costco chickens and split a gallon of gas, and don't worry, gas will soon be $9 in California. What a crap show. Long live the LSA.
Gas is pretty expensive out here in Utah right now. Last time I got gas, folks, it was $5 a gallon. Good God, it was expensive. It was like $80 for a tank. I sat there and went, damn, I think it'd be cheaper to buy a tank at this point than it would be to fill up the tank of this damn car. But I do have to say, a big thanks to you for supporting that Costco chicken fund, and long live the Lee Spring Army. The Lee Spring Army will never truly die. And so with that, a huge thanks to you once again, and we're on to the next one.
We also have a $20 support from JMO75, and thank you, JMO, as well, for the 20. He said, I am totally bummed out. The Middle East was pretty cool to visit before this nonsense.
It really was. The Middle East was actually a pretty cool place at the time, and a lot of people won't know that because it's been embroiled in a lot of conflicts as of the last few decades. But the Middle East was actually a really cool place back before all the wars started to grip the region here over the past few decades. So I do have to thank you incredibly for the support and helping this channel to keep running, and I definitely have to agree with you. I sadly never got to see that time, but there are other places in the world, folks, that are in peacetime, relatively for now, like Japan. That'd be a pretty neat place to go. It's not the Middle East, but it's somewhere cool. They have all kinds of cool stuff here in the city of Saitama, like the Railway Museum.
If I keep getting offers to go to Israel, should I accept?
Well, it depends.
It's all expenses paid, they say.
Well,
I mean, free can be bad. I mean, free's always good.
Do you have to give up all moral integrity and just do whatever anyone else tells you if you go and take that trip? Just curious.
I don't know. I mean, free can't be bad. I mean, free good.
FREE, that spells free. Like it's man, take that trip.
If I get an offer from North Korea to go visit their place to change my mind, should I accept?
Man, honestly, man, I feel like that'd be a pretty solid one to go on, like a state-sponsored tour of North Korea.
Man, they said they were going to change my mind, but they didn't mention they were actually going to like really like actually change it out, like take it out.
they said they were going to blow my mind away. I didn't know what they meant by that one.
Yeah, I don't know what they mean by that either.
Look, the guy, he died from bed sores. But his brain, nothing about his brain. It was bed sores. We
I'll say
kept
this.
him.
If you ever went to North Korea and they say don't go to this floor on the 11th, I wouldn't be going to that 11th floor. I can promise you that. I wouldn't be going there. I would tend to follow the rules if I went there, but I wouldn't be stupid enough to go there in the first place, by the way, because I called him fat. And I don't think he liked that very much when I called him fat and ate all the Twinkies and stuff and sat in the dungeons and stuff like that while his people starved to death. I don't think he would take too kindly to that. I think they'd probably chain me to the square and hit me with a SAM.
Actually, Matthew, it's a 20 millimeter Gush gun. Like, not a SAM. They're going to hit you with the anti-aircraft gun.
They might hit you with all of it. They might be so pissed off they hit you with everything.
I mean,
Hell, they might nuke you.
honestly, man, I think we're some of the people who like most vocally shit on them on air, like 24/7. I mean, like, I don't really think anyone goes as hard as we do sometimes on that.
And they've been trying to hack into my accounts for like the past 2 months. Like occasionally I'll get like a alert that someone's trying to get in. Thankfully I have really good security on all my accounts and stuff and like security keys and stuff. But
and that brings us to tonight's sponsor.
Man, I'll occasionally get warnings like your account has been accessed from Korea. I'll be like, oh, I'll be like, I see. I didn't know he was built like this. Actually, I did, but that's why I have security keys and stuff like that. They can't get in.
Man, honestly, here's my tip for y'all travel wise as Americans. If anybody ever asks you to go to North Korea, you should have those people mentally committed to a psych ward for going insane, because anybody who's a capitalist American dog pig going to North Korea is clearly not going to be welcome there, even if they say that you are. Like, also, by the way, you can't even go there now. Like, US passports are not acceptable for entry into North Korea. That's according to the United States Department of State. And then also the North Koreans don't want anyone there at this point. They don't even have tourists. So it's impossible these days. But never go to North Korea. That is a very bad idea. Not a good one. But, South Korea, though, that's totally fine. Japan is totally fine. Taiwan is pretty okay, too. The Philippines... I watched a video on the Philippines the other day in this hostage situation that happened in Manila, and in the midst of the hostage situation, the brother of the cop that took all these people hostage, I don't know if you've heard this story before, Matthew, but he told his brother in the bus that if the police didn't meet his demands exactly, don't follow through with it on the police's radio. So they took him away. And then the guy who was watching the TV in the bus heard the police chief said to take his brother to Tondo, which is apparently like taking him to O Block, apparently, and just, hoping that they get kind of like capped. And so then the dude went crazy in the bus and started executing the hostages. And hearing how badly they mismanaged that whole situation kind of got me thinking twice about ever stepping foot in the Philippines. Because a police officer literally was the one who took the hostages. I was like, I think I'm good. I think I'm okay. Also, this place looks like shit, by the way. I went and looked at Tondo the other day, and
Oh man.
it's rough.
Also, by the way, I see people in the chat, they're like shocked. They're also, by the way, I'm not joking when I say my account's been like accessed from Korea and stuff like that. My account, there's been people trying to breach my account from all over the place. Like people get our like business email and stuff like that. And that's enough for like a skilled hacker to be able to get information about you and try to hack your accounts. I've had my accounts accessed from Moscow, Russia. I've had my account, and not infiltrated, but like attempts to access the account. Also from Korea. I've had a couple from like just random countries in Africa, just like trying to access it, which is probably spoofed. And then, everywhere at this point, it feels like, but none have been able to get in because I have good security on that stuff right there. So yeah, it's just the thing. We even had at one point, we had a lunatic send us a video of our house, like literally mapping out our house at one point. This was another YouTuber actually that was a lunatic that's no longer really a viable YouTuber anymore. Literally sent us a video of our house and stuff. And also people were surprised we get death threats. We get death threats too over email. Like occasionally there'll be some lunatic that sends an email talking about, I won't repeat the threat here on YouTube, but it'll be like some bad threat or something like that. My response is usually, well, if you got my address and come down here, then and then they shut up.
Man, there's been so many crazy people, folks, who have said shit to us so many times. It's insane. We've been called everything under the sun politically. We've been funded and supported by everybody on the planet. According to these people, it's something else. It's always interesting though because they never follow through with it, and also that's because we never cower down. We just tell them, "All right, pull up," then and then they always back off.
That's been the response every time. Like when anybody's like, "Oh yeah, I'm going to really," there was this one guy. I've actually did some research into him as he was running his mouth so badly. I was like, "Who the hell is this guy?" So I found out he was from New Zealand because I'm actually pretty decent at OSINT myself. So I found out the guy where he was from and everything about him and stuff like that. And I was like, "Is this you, buddy?" And he was like, let's just put it this way. After that, he shut up. He didn't say anything after that. After he realized, oh, dang, I'm not anonymous on the internet after all. I'm actually visible to the person I'm harassing. Once he found that out, he shut up.
There's been so many people like that, and I see some people saying death threats aren't cool. No, they're not. We get them all the time though, and there's no stopping them. Like honestly, like dealing with people on a one-on-one, I find that very enjoyable and it's great. But whenever you deal with a mass of humanity, like tens of thousands of people every night, there are insano people out there watching the show right now. Probably, like, I would say at least 100 of them out of the 10.5 thousand that are here right now that literally hate our guts and want us dead and would want to try and kill us if they could. And they hate watch every day. And, you just know that, like, all the time. And it just kind of is what it is. It comes with the job. I'm not one, like, by the way, folks, I'm not one in the mindset to complain about that kind of stuff because, yeah, it's not great. And clearly it's something to complain about. But also, folks, being honest, I kind of knew that was going to come with the job territory. If you ever get known at all by anyone anywhere, you're going to have a whole bunch of people trying to make your life a living hell. It just comes with the job. There's pluses and minuses to it. But one thing I will always tell them, and Matthew will always tell them, is that if they do threaten us, we just tell them, well, come on down. Apparently you know where we're at, and try and follow through on what you're saying.
Yeah.
But then they never do.
That's true. Also, by the way, I got a call the other day from somebody, and they were like, "Hello, is this Matt?" I was like, "Yeah, it is." They're like, "Oh, yeah, we're just making an appointment to rearrange your jaw." I was like, "What?" Then said, "No, it's the dentist." I was like, "Oh, okay." I was like, "My bad." I thought this was somebody calling to actually make a threat. Like, it's like I didn't know it was a dentist.
Man, honestly, man, one time I got a call, man, they said they was gonna fix me up. And I said, what the hell you mean? They said they're gonna fix my water heater. I said, oh, thank God. Like, I was like, oh, thank goodness. Man.
That laugh was a little bit exaggerated, but you get the point.
Yeah, we get the point. But something, folks, don't y'all worry a little whisker. We make sure to take care of ourselves. We're very security conscious, and also it would not be smart for these people to try and follow through on their threats. So don't worry, folks. We're A-okay. We've been doing this for 4 years. We've learned security incredibly well. Also, folks, by the way, kind of sadly, just to be a little bit honest with you all here, that's also why we kind of stopped taking fan mail, because fan mail actually posed a significant risk. And sometimes we would get stuff in the mail that people didn't tell us they were going to be sending, and sometimes there was actually some questionable stuff in that. So that's kind of why we had to bring the whole fan mail thing to an end, because people are like, a lot of people would send really cool stuff and we loved receiving it. We like, some people send us through fan mail some of the coolest things that I've ever seen and that I've ever been gifted, and Matthew as well. But there were also people who would abuse it greatly to try and get at us that way, and so we had to end that whole deal, most likely permanently, which is a shame. But with that, it is time for us to move on to the next one.
So our next super chat here is going to go to none other than JJ Showtime. And thank you very much, JJ, for that $20 support. And he said, gas prices are getting higher. As we say in Georgia, shit or get off the pot. Damn, I never heard that one. He said, and if we leave nothing about Hormuz, it's going to benefit the U.S. And if we have to invade, get on with it. But we shouldn't be there to begin with. Folly?
I would say that we kind of should be there, because, something that I always heard in school was people saying about the Holocaust, why in the world did the U.S. not respond or act quicker? You know, we were watching this atrocity from afar. We just acted like it didn't exist. And a lot of people these days kind of have a similar mindset, and they'll be talked about and joked on, just like they're joking on people from the Second World War about, oh, why didn't they do anything? 40,000 people in Iran got gunned down, and I've seen so many people. You know, it's always interesting to me, folks, like how there's like groups like the Holocaust deniers, and there's people who even deny the massacre that happened in Iran. We watched it, like Matthew and me did. We didn't get to show a lot of the clips on air, but we were watching people get shot in their heads, their necks, machine guns in the streets because it was being filmed by the Iranian people when it was happening. There were people getting killed left and right throughout Iran, and it was truly a crime against humanity that happened there in that country. And if America has a moral obligation to respond to such heinous crimes against humanity, and also the fact that they're working on a nuclear weapon on the side as well, then that's definitely a war I would say that we should get in. That was something that we had to do. On other things like Venezuela and Cuba, that's just completely pointless wastes of time, really. But with Iran, that definitely is a risk to the United States of America in a myriad of ways. And with their control over the Strait of Hormuz, we now have to deal with them. So I would definitely agree they should get on with it. But I would also have to say that as far as most wars, I'm not a big fan of just going around and doing wars for the sake of wars. But this one is one that was necessary and had to be done. So I hope that has addressed that well. A big thanks to you once again. And with that, we're on to the next one.
And also a big shout out to Sadada Hosoda for putting in a $20 support. And thank you very much, Sadada, for that very generous $20 support. He did not leave a comment, but we do appreciate that very, very much. We also have a 20 from Miami Catfish, who said, I helped my Cuban family from Vancouver. I brought solar gear there last week, but most suffer inhumanely now from this atrocity, yet no mass uprising. A threat to USA is a non-democracy, thriving and resisting domination, period. You know, I think the reason why the Cubans don't rise up is because there reaches a point where when a country gets so impoverished that the citizens simply don't have the willpower or the energy to rise up because they've been demoralized so much and they really just don't have the drive in them to do something like that. Like Americans, for example, Americans are very feisty. They tend to be on the aggressive side. That's because generally our quality of life is pretty decent, so they have the mental bandwidth and thought to put towards something like that. But in a country like Cuba, it's just different because, you know, they've been stripped of their willpower to a large degree. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to generally agree with that. Now, I would have to thank you for the support, Miami Catfish. And with that, we're on to the next one.
We also have a 20 from Ride for Life, also known as Chargy, and thank you very much, Chargy, as well, for that 20. They said, thank you, Enforcers, for 4 years of war coverage in Ukraine and elsewhere. And I pray and hope that someday our leaders will realize that peace is better than war for everyone.
I would hope so. Right now, I think that's definitely not the case, because they seem to have quite a veracity for war. But outside of that, though, I would hope that our leadership returns back to the way it once was, to where war is the least preferable option. But if a war has to be fought, then it will be fought and fought well. We don't have any of that these days. They have an endless lust for war, but then they never want to follow through on actually winning the wars that they get involved in. So it's a complete waste. But a big thanks to your support and help this channel to keep it running, and I hope that does address that incredibly well. And with that, we're on the next one.
Also, we have a 20 from Nathan Ringerwall, and thank you very much, Nathan, for that 20 as well. Very generous of you. And Nathan said, my dad was the ground electronics technician at Diego Garcia. Oh, and well, speak of the devil. He said in the 1970s, and it was like Mikhail's Navy. His stories were wild. And that's wild, actually. I didn't mention that earlier. I was like, does anybody actually know anybody personally that was actually at Diego Garcia? I think you're the only person I know that actually knows somebody personally that's actually been to that island, actually. That's actually quite fascinating, actually. That was a long time ago, back in the 70s. That island has been around for a very long time. But Enforcer, what say you?
As opposed to islands who are only around for 30 years at a time. like those.
Well, you know, they can be new. They can be like the South China Sea.
Man, those ain't islands. Man, that's damn dredging mounds, bro. Like, they're just out there with a giant-ass dredger just building a little sand dune, and then it goes away in, like, 5 years. Yeah, those truly do actually, like, pop up and disappear, though. But this island, though, it is a permanent island. It's been around for a minute, actually.
It's an atoll, isn't it?
I think it is, actually. Yeah, I think you're right on that.
Indeed. I'm always right.
Well, I mean, of course you are. Yes, that... I'm sending you to the cornfield. No, please, no. Like, beyond that, though, I do have to say that's really cool to hear, Nathan, and thank you for sharing that story with us, because that is interesting and quite fascinating, actually. That is actually the first person I've ever heard of that knew someone at Diego Garcia himself. But a huge thanks to you once again. And with that, we're on to the next one.
And we also have a 20 from Game Theory, and thank you, Game Theory, as well, for the 20. And he said, how do you secure your email? I haven't found anything past Microsoft 365. Well, the most secure you can get in right now in 2026 is using physical security keys. That's as literally as secure as it can get. So if you have a physical security key, there's a risk to that, by the way. If your security key gets destroyed or you don't have a way to locate it, unless you have the hash, which is like the backup code to get into your account, then you lose access to your account permanently and you're screwed. You never get access to it again. But the catch is, though, nobody can get into your account if you have a physical security key unless they physically break into your house to go get it and then plug it in to get into your account, which that's literally as good as it gets. I think you can also generally use a hash key or something like that as an alternative to that, but that's a little bit more complicated. You got to keep it on a piece of paper and stuff like that. It gets really tricky real quick. But two-factor is what most people use to secure their accounts, which usually is SMS text-based for the most part, or there's authentication apps that they have now too, which is pretty secure or decently secure. Not as secure as a physical key though. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to say that our account is incredibly secure. Let me guide you through the security elements that we. I'm just kidding, by the way. These hearts are probably about to drop for the reason. No. But beyond that, though, I would have to say Matthew knows a lot more about that than me. But we have everything that we use locked down as much as we can. So a huge thanks to you for the support. I hope that does address that well. With that, we're on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Big Ron, who puts in a 10, and thank you, Big Ron, as well. He said, do you think the United States was defeated in the attacks committed at the restart of this conflict? Some people are trying to say that it is, and why are we dealing with these negotiations right now?
The reason why we're dealing with the negotiations is because the U.S. government expected the Iranians to collapse in 3 days, and when they didn't, that came as a shock. So everything else after that was flying by the seam of our pants, and right now we're still flying by the seam of our pants because they never expected that they would have to negotiate with the Iranians at all because they thought they would not even exist in 3 days. So that's really why this whole thing is happened the way it is. And I find it so funny, folks, because, a lot of people said that we've won against Iran. We defeated them and the war's over, and yet it really isn't. A little odd with that. I think those people who said that, folks, they don't think independently. But a big thanks to your support. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we're on to the next one.
We also have a 10 from Music Uploader, and thank you very much, Music Uploader, for that 10. They said, did you know that a peacock is a male peacock and a female is a peahen in LSA?
I didn't know that, actually. That's very interesting. I thank you for sharing that with us. And with that, we're on to the next one.
And our next one here goes to TGTV Tank Mode. And thank you for that 10, by the way. He said, the only things I think the U.S. wants with Cuba, is their zeolites, fourth best in the world. They're nickel, ninth the largest producer, and cobalt reserves, third in the world, and sixth globally production. That's it.
Maybe, but I don't know. I just don't think that's really worth it, at least in my opinion. But a big thanks to you for support and helping this channel to keep it running. And with that, we're on to the next one.
We also have a 10 from Sarah Louise, and thank you, Sarah, for the 10. They said, yes, I'm British. She doesn't think very highly of the leader, but sending sympathy to Americans. And she's not too happy about the American leader either. Honestly, but we did produce Winston Churchill, though, for another influential 20th and 21st century leader. And the crazy part is, Winston Churchill made more sense than modern day leaders, and he was an alcoholic. But Enforcer, what say you?
As far as the German invasion of Britain, that is what we're trying to do.
That dude had more cognition. That dude had more cognition loaded up than anybody who's sober.
Man, that guy was so intelligent. He had to handicap himself by being plastered 24/7. Like, he would sit there. All right, everyone, I'll just have my third scotch. But sir, it's 8 in the morning. Shut the hell up. We're going to fight the Germans, and we're going to beat them. while I'm absolutely drunk the whole time. Meanwhile, in the modern day, I don't take a single drink of liquor, but I don't know what the F we're doing with Iran. I have no clue. It's like, damn.
Man, I'll tell you, Winston Churchill, he would like drink like until he was like just blazed, like the amount of drinking he would do. And then he would get up and give the most inspirational speech you've ever heard in your life. It's like, this dude right here is actually like he was on to something. Like, it was okay. Like, I'm not usually like encouraging things like that, like drinking heavy, but that dude figured it out apparently.
Man, that guy would literally just take a brief minute to get the damn like ring of glass from the vodka bottle or the gin bottle off of his lips, get up and go, "It's time to give the most inspirational shit you've ever heard." And then he'd do the speech and he'd be like, "I'm going back to drinking and smoking cigars. We'll figure it out." And then just wander off. Like honestly though, Churchill was legit. Like if you look at his life, he actually had a crazy life, folks. Some of y'all might not know it, but he was actually a war hero at one point. Which is very interesting. It was before the First World War, and then the First World War happened, and he tarnished his reputation by going, there's this place. He wasn't absolutely plastered by this point in his life, by the way. So he actually probably talked like, there's this place called Gallipoli. We ought to drop off some men there. And then it ended up being the bloodiest battle that achieved absolutely nothing in World War I. And then after that, he then talked about dropping tear gas on revolting Arab tribes in the Arabian Peninsula, which some people were like, he wanted to use chemical warfare. It's like, well, I mean, police use tear gas on riots these days. It's like, is that any different? But anyways, beyond that though, Churchill then went on to have a pretty successful career in politics leading up to the Second World War. But what's crazy? What's something that a lot of people don't know, Matthew, is that he was actually ousted as the prime minister just a couple of months before victory in Europe.
Yeah, it can happen. They ousted Steve Jobs from his own company.
Yeah, he sat there, man. He's like, I did it. We have won the Second World War. Wait a minute, what are you doing? Yeah, we're voting no confidence. You haven't done well, but I've won you haven't won shit, brother. Man, and then they just ousted the guy for Clement Attlee. It's like, man, that was really shafting the guy. And then they got Clement Attlee, and then they ousted him to replace him with Churchill again.
That's what British people do, man. They love to switch up leaders. They like to just switch it up like they're shaking up a bottle.
Man, honestly, they do, man. But no one got shafted harder than that one woman, Liz Truss, who was the prime minister for 58 days. I think it's the shortest.
No, nobody shafted her. No, nobody did. I mean, she did it to herself.
Yeah, she was also kind of odd. That whole thing where one eye would just start roving over to the right while the other one looked straight forward was kind of a little odd, Also,
that's because she was kind of wanting to leave, but she kind of wanted to stay.
And then right after that, they said, "Oh, it's a great idea. Let's get Rishi Sunak out of everybody we could pick. Let's get him. He's the most corporate dude you could ever imagine. He'll clearly be charismatic. He was
better than the current guy."
Honestly, man, if you look at all of the prime ministers of late, I'd say that all of them have been on the I would say, folks, that the downhill streak of prime ministers of the United Kingdom started at the beginning of this century with Tony Blair, and it's never gotten better. Each one's just been a step lower than the last one. It's wild though. It's how in the hell are they not picking a better prime minister? It's like each party is in a race to the bottom over there on who in the world can we pick that would be the worst prime minister imaginable.
Yeah, they got a lot of strings attached to them. They're kind of like puppets, kind of like here too in America.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the prime minister sort of a position. It's kind of supposed to be that way. But in America, it's not. In America, it's not. Over there, it kind of is. But anyways, with that, folks, it is time for us to move on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Ian Mitson. And thank you very much, Ian, for that 10. He said, am I paranoid or with that asset they got here, the Cold War is back on the menu?
I wouldn't say that's too paranoid. I mean, kind of already is the second Cold War, I suppose. But a big thanks to your support, and I hope that has addressed that well. And with that, we're on to the next one.
We also have a $6 support from Jason Curling, and thank you, Jason, as well. He said, a close ever had third-party candidate, Henry Ross Petro, ran his Reform Party in 1996 and got 8% of the vote. Yeah, that's the sad thing about third parties. They're usually just what's known as a spoiler to the main two parties. That's usually what they serve as today. So if you see a third party candidate in today's political environment getting a lot of funding, that means they're hurting one or the other parties, and they're trying to hurt the chances of one candidate of the main parties winning. So they're not really viable. That's why I say that it's maybe like a very charismatic third party that actually like really intends to win would maybe be successful. But I don't know. Like the two main parties are so entrenched, it's like hard to overcome that. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to agree. But a big thanks to your support, and we're on to the next one.
We also have a 5 from Robert Krogan, who said, "Good evening, Enforcers and LSA. Here's a little something for the effort, and take one from the chat, please."
And thank you so much for the support, Robert. And we will make sure to get one from the chat. What do we got, Matthew?
And the one from the live chat is going to go to none other than Mr. Non-Air. He said, "Honest question. Wasn't there a big fuel shortage end of last year? And what happened after this shortage? Somehow it got stopped, I guess."
Well, really, it kind of stabilized. Like all the areas that were afflicted just remain afflicted from what we knew. But now it's starting to spread even worse, and that's why it's getting covered again. Is that now it seems like they're on the final plunge. So I hope that does address that live chat the best we can. And a big thanks to your support, Robert, and help with this channel to keep running. And we're on to the next one.
We also have a 5 from Jason C. And thank you, Jason, for the 5. He said, "I'm now convinced it's about oil companies' record profits. They don't actually want the Strait back open yet, and clears up all the confusion, in my humble opinion." Also, by the way, I watched a documentary yesterday that was made by another YouTuber. He was actually going around with a fellow who is in the oil industry, and he was talking about how much money they're literally swimming in right now because of how high the oil price is. So it's a real thing. Like oil companies and also, medium-sized, large ones, and even smaller oil companies, they are raking in record profits right now. So, obviously they don't get to control the oil price, but I'm sure that they're not displeased that the price is this high because they're making a killing right now. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to agree. I think I don't think they're unhappy with the current situation, but it's not really all about them. Big thanks to your support. I hope that it's addressed that well, and we're on to the next one.
And our next one here goes to Sylph, who puts in a 5 and said, "Good efforts, lads."
And thank you so much for enjoying our efforts and supporting it. And with that, we're on to the next one.
We also have a 5 from Measure Man, who said, "Send all them Gripen aircraft to Ukraine. And I flew the sim once on the Gripen E model once last year and sent a few MiGs running back to Kaliningrad."
Oh, that's really cool. That's really neat. And I would have to say I'm a big fan of the Gripens. I think that's an amazing low-cost fourth-gen platform. Not that I'm a Saab representative, and also, man, that hiccup just hit me out
like
of left
Churchill,
field.
bro. You're over there like a hiccup and gulping. You sound like you're about to give a speech on vodka.
I just had a wonderful spot of brandy. And I'm about to tell you all about this. So sit down.
And what you do is get out of the drunk tank? What are you doing over there?
So I don't know what it is, but my throat is getting so dry right now, and that's what made me hiccup. And I'm trying to power
water.
through. Well, yeah, but I can't get up and get it because I gotta talk all the time. So I just have to power through kind of. If y'all don't know, folks, I when I'm off air, I'm hiccuping and yawning nonstop, and I think it's just from doing this all the time and talking nonstop. It's very annoying to me. I wish I could try and reverse that because back when I first started doing this, it wasn't like that. I hardly ever yawned and I hardly ever hiccuped. Now it's very common. It's a shame. But beyond that though. To answer your question, the Swedes are an enigmatic people, a great, proud nation of people. They create fine weapons, they support Scandinavian privileges and rights, and they continue to be a shield against tyranny. But a big thanks to your support. I'd have to say I'm a big proponent of the Gripen as well. But with that, we're on to the next one.
We also have a 5 from Nick, and thank you very much for that support. They said they're saying, oh dear. Sadly, this one's too spicy to read on here, I would say. But he's not happy about the Strait of Hormuz. I'll put it that way. But he puts it in a very strong way, though. But we do appreciate that support very much. We also have a 5 from Bobo, who said, "Shout out to you for not forgetting the innocent Iranian people and their protests."
Yeah, I like to remember that. I like to remember that because I remember.
I'm the one who remembered.
Well, I mean, we both remember it at different times.
I remembered first.
Well, tonight, yeah, but what about the other ones?
Man, honestly, I guess all that matters at the end of the day is it's remembered.
Amazing grace. But beyond that, though, like, in all seriousness, we do try and remember, although Matthew did bring it up first tonight, that is true. But we do try and remember it, though, because, you know, the president did promise those people that we were going to be there to help them if they got shot, and then 40,000 of them got shot and killed, and then we did nothing about that. It basically acted like that never happened, you know, and that's something that doesn't really weigh well on my conscience, you know. If you tell someone, folks, to, like, go over there, like, you know, like if you're with a friend and some guy like shoves him or something, you're like, hey, go over there and get in a fist fight with him, you know, stand up for yourself, and if he fights back, I'll jump in and help you out. And then that dude that, you know, your friend went over to pick a fight with because you just, you know, insulted him or shoved him or something, then that guy pulls out a gun and you're not there to help him and your friend gets shot. I mean, you're kind of to blame for that because you kind of encouraged the guy to go over there and get shot, basically. That's what we did with all those Iranian people. But a big thanks to you for support, and with that, we're on to the next one.
Also, a big shout out to Butchie777 who put in a 5-pounder. And thank you very much, Butchie, for that 5-pound donation right there. And we do appreciate that very much. And Enforcer, what say you?
And a big thanks to you for the support. And with that, we're on to the next one.
We've also got a 5 from Hollaberry. And thank you, Hollaberry. They said, are they cascading the knowledge and doing the something?
I don't know. But a big thanks to your support, and we're on to the next one.
All right. And our next one, also, by the way, let's see here. Well, I won't rabbit hole in that. We're getting pretty late, so I'll leave that alone. But our next one here goes to...
Governor.
Say what?
Long in the tooth, Governor. It's starting to run overtime, prejudice.
Oh, no, I've gotten that problem fixed. I went to the dentist a while back. But this one goes to Veman Guy. He puts in a 5. He said the president trying the hat trick to have Bay of Pigs. What the hell's a hat trick? Vietnam and Iraq war levels of screw-ups within this little while.
So a hat trick is apparently this shit where you just throw baseball caps out on a hockey rink. I never knew that, but what a hat trick.
Is that a trick?
I don't really think it's a trick. I think that's bullshit. You know, that guy's having to go around clean all of them up.
I thought a hat trick was like a scam. Like I like the first thing that popped in my mind is like, you know, somebody's like playing like the hat trick on you. It's like somebody's like, you know, taking you for a punk or something.
Honestly, I thought a hat trick was something that a magician did with a top hat. Like, you know, a magician is what I'm trying to say.
A magician.
Bro, damn, it's that damn magician. Bro, like,
man, the magician's exposing his tricks again.
Man, that's a magician that happens to be in Army logistics. They call him the magician.
heavy ordnance.
Man, he pulls that shit right out the hat. He's like pulling like 81 millimeter mortar shells out of the top hat and everything. I thought it was something to do with a magician's top hat, but outside of that, I do have to say, maybe they are trying to go for that, maybe. But a big thanks to you for support and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we're on to the next one.
We also have here a 5 from Hednar. He said, did you hear that the U.S. threatened to blow up Oman today? But, hey, the Dow's up to 50,000 points, right? I did hear that, by the way. Do you have that picture of Rubio, by the way?
Where he looked like he was wanting to, you know, like, get out of there and...
Yeah, show that picture real quick. That came from that meeting, I'm pretty sure. I'll just show. The U.S. president did mention possibly taking military action on Oman. This says it all right here, honestly. You know, if I was him, I would resign. If I was him, to be straight up honest, but I'm not sure if he has it in him to resign. But yeah, I think people are tired, boss. I think people are tired. But unfortunately, what say you?
Yeah, I think people are tired. You know, you can't, like, the guy is like just straight up an idiot. I mean, like, it's like, yeah, there's no other way to look at it at this point. I mean, now we're threatening to bomb an ally. It's like, you can't get more brain dead than where we're at. But the Dow is at 50,000, so I guess all is forgiven. I heard folks that today some guy actually drove a car down the National Mall at 130 miles an hour from the Capitol building to the Washington Monument, spun a donut around the base of the Washington Monument, and the police just let him do it because the Dow's over 50,000, and clearly all sins are forgiven if the Dow's at a certain level. So I gotta say, big shout out to him. But anyways, with that, I hope that does address that well, and with that, we're on to the next one.
We also have a 5 from Game Theory, and thank you for that support. They said, what do you think of Y2K?
I thought it was overhyped, but I wasn't alive for it, so I wouldn't really know. But the big thing is your support and help this channel to keep it running. And with that, we're on the next one.
We also have a 5 from Hednar. He said, I think Putin and his regime should get the treatment, LSA.
Oh, well, I mean, there's a lot of spas around, lots of them. But a big thanks to you for support. And with that, we're on the next one.
We also have a 5 from Craig B, who said, if we try to take the strait by force, do you think Iran would mainly attack the oil tankers to make the oil shock last year's, whether it's open or not?
Well, they could try, but as long as we beat them to the punch of destroying whatever would be attempting to attack those ships, the damage would probably be manageable. And also, the drones might be able to punch a hole in the ship, but for the most part, they rarely ever are able to sink them. That would take anti-ship missiles, and they don't have that many of those from what we know. So I hope that does address that the best I can. And with that, we're on to the next one.
This one goes to Ella MC Wills Nafo, who said, the Leaf Party? Yeah, and the slogan could be, we're turning a new leaf.
Oh, that's a good one. That is a good one. And I gotta say,
we're turning a new leaf with brand new voices who are the best in the industry, and they're gonna put deers in trunks for supper venison.
It's time, everyone. We're going to be turning a brand new leaf. Oh, my God, look, a worm. Let me get out my magnifying glass and fry this son of a bitch. See if he squirms. Should I pray, mother effer, you're going to squirm for your damn life. Meanwhile, the worm, anyways, big thanks to you for his support. And we're on the next one.
We also have a 5 from Wolf Hednar. He said, what about the United Party with the buffalo as the mascot? At least the buffalo is indigenous to North America, unlike elephants and donkeys.
I gotta say, the animals of the political parties are dumb as hell. Like an elephant and a donkey. It's like you couldn't do better. Like the Democrats literally got the donkey because Andrew Jackson was a jackass, and then that's why they got that. And then the Republicans got theirs because they never forget. But shit, they forget everything. Have y'all seen them lately? Like they don't even remember what the hell they voted for last year. So it's like none of like both of those are just dumb to me. Like I don't even get them. But yeah, honestly, like a bison would be pretty cool. Or you could do a moose, like a bull moose, that'd be a cool one.
Honey badger. We'll import a honey badger.
The American badger.
Yeah, the American badger. We'll make a badger the mascot. We want a badger.
Marmot?
No.
Why not?
Because the badger is my animal. I love the badger.
Well, I suppose. I suppose, but...
The marmot can be the janitor.
How about an eagle? We're just leaning into that American stereotype really hard. Maybe we'll have a WWE match at one of the political rallies.
Maybe, possibly. Also, by the way, is that like a stadium that they're building on the lawn of the White House? Is that going to destroy the grass? Because I was seeing the pictures come out today of that. It's like... I'm like, it looks like it's smushing the grass. I'm not sure how they're going to save the grass. I'm like, hopefully it doesn't run the whole grass on the lawn.
I probably will. But, at this point, what are we going to do? Nothing, I suppose. So, yeah, I'd have a feeling it's probably going to destroy the grass. Folks, I got a better one. How about we get some people up to sing some pandering songs? I just want to kiss my face, drive my truck. How about that one? Maybe we got to do that one. Or, get out those damn millennial, hey, clap stomp songs. The ones I'm talking about, folks. The ones you hear in, the very inner cities. It's always those stupid songs in those damn coffee shops.
It's those burger joints, too, that charge $30 a burger. And their slogan is just two guys and a crazy idea. And it's these stupid expensive burgers that taste mid.
Yeah, exactly. It's those places. It's literally them.
Millennials, dang it.
Man, and their songs are always so contrived. It's so stupid. Every song has a guitar at the beginning of it, and then they go, oh, that shit for 30 seconds. Can we just get to the actual song rather than this stupid, I gotta tell y'all folks, I hate modern music with a burning passion. Any category, I hate it. It's just so bad. It's so terrible. Especially country music now, because it's either just rap that's disguised like country music, or it is the most pandering ass shit you've ever heard in your life. Like anybody in Alabama's in their Ford listening to cold beer, cornfields, wrapping round my pontoon. It's damn, this is literally just a shopping list of redneck shit. It's could you come up with a better song? Rather than just literally listing off whatever the hell country people do. Like, you know, and then the country people folks are like born in a city like Nashville, and they never went in the country. They lived in the city of Nashville their whole damn life, and then they become like 24, and then they put on the boots and the stupid ass cowboy hat like anybody wears that in the South. It'd be a baseball cap if they were like legit. And then they sit there and pretend like I'm country as hell. I'm a damn marball man. It's like, no, you're not. You're a city slicker pretending to be a country dude. You don't know shit about it, and that's why your songs sound like a pandering shopping list. But anyways, I got to tell you, folks, I got strong opinions on modern music. Like, I hate this stuff. But anyways, with that, we're on to the next one.
We also have a 5 from a Hollaberry once again. They said, "Cuz I can't do tree fitty." All right, homie.
Man, well, I didn't know you was like that. Thanks for your support. And also, Kyle Bedell said, I'm a millennial. I'm not like dissing on millennials. I'm just dissing on millennial music. Like, I diss on Gen Z music. It's ass. Like, it's terrible. I'm Gen Z. I hate the stuff. I like, honestly, I hate anything that's Gen X and further up. Like, anything from there to our generation, I just think it's bad. But anyways, with that, we're on to the nenext one.
We also have a 2 from Plazanth, and thank you, Plazanth, as well, for that $2 support. And we do appreciate that, as always. We also have a 2 from Ivy, and they said, try the Catalyst for our generation.
The Catalyst? I don't know what that would be.
What's that?
You just add some lime in the mixture. That's the Catalyst. Well, with that,
I don't know where to go with that, man. I generally don't know where to go with that.
I don't know either.
I had no thoughts. My brain was as empty as anything.
Man, my brain went empty like Starmer's, man. Like, just went thoughtless. I was like, I don't know where to go with this. But a big thanks to your support with this channel to keep on running. And with that, we're on to the next one.
We also have a 5 from Game Theory, who said, "No burgers are better than In-N-Out. Had today. Still a $4.50 double-double."
Yeah, it's great.
I love those two.
Yeah.
Animal style is the way to have it with the mustard.
Man, they're so good. Oh, man. Like, In-N-Out burgers are so good, especially for their cost. And they're always, like, top-notch, like, very fresh. I enjoy them so much. Also, by the way, folks, I have to clarify, just because I hate Gen X's, the millennials, and the Gen Z music does not mean I hate you as a person or your generation. I just don't like the music from any of those generations, including mine. Still like y'all, though. Y'all are great folks, but that doesn't reflect on y'all as people. It's just the music.
He's a hater.
Man, like, bro, like, sometimes I'll say something like, damn, I hate this modern music, and then someone will be like, I'm a modern person, and I'm offended. It's like, oh, I'm not saying you. I'm just saying I don't like the music. You know, like, I got my own taste, you know? I like listening to Cole Porter, if y'all know who that is.
What?
Real Cole Porter, you know, he's the guy who sung Everything Goes, you know, the one, "On olden days, a glimpse of stocking was like that." You know that guy?
Oh, you're into that freaky music.
No, man, I'm getting into that classical music. Like, I got Spurs, that Jingle, Jingle, Jingle. You know that one? That was a pretty good one.
Yeah.
Or
What's that one that Ben Shapiro was singing? That was a pretty catchy tune.
Oh, what was he singing?
I can't remember the name of it. It was like an acronym or something. It was like a 3-letter acronym. Can't remember it.
I stands for myself and I'm going broke.
It all went downhill after he sung that explicit song.
Oh, certified freak, 7 days a week.
After that, it went.
Didn't he do like a rap song or something at some point?
I think so, something like that. I know exactly why that dude went downhill. I know exactly why, but I'm not sure if we can say it on YouTube. But I know exactly why he went downhill.
I think the start of the downhill collapse started with, I think retirement is stupid. Everyone should work until they die, and I was like, there we are, the fall. Everyone who rises must fall. It's here. That's where it started, and then everything else afterwards, which was totally different than that, really contributed to it a great deal. But anyways, with that, it is time for us to move on and into the next one.
And our next one goes to Treetop, who puts in a 10. And thank you, Treetop. They said, "One should never hate Gen X. We are the only sane generation. Prove me wrong." I love every generation personally. I love all the generations over the years and the generations. I love them all. I love all the generations, as they say. But Enforcer, what say you?
I love all the generations. I just don't like some music, like from like the recent generations. Like I will say though, some Gen X music is legit. Like Don't Fear the Reaper, like stuff like that. Those were some really good songs. Most stuff that really honestly, like when I come to think of it, Gen X music isn't actually that bad, but like the tail end of it started to get bad. And then once you start to enter the 90s, it just got dog. Like everything got bad. Like everything from the 90s on, I don't listen to it. I refuse to, because it's like once you start to realize it, folks, how all the songs are formulated somewhere in a meeting room and written up there to be as marketable as possible, and you start to notice that in the lyrics and how things are sung and how they don't touch certain topics because they think it might not be marketable enough, you start to hate the stuff because you realize that it's just made to sell records or to sell copies. So a big thanks to you for support. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we're on to the next one.
We also have a 2 from Par Baked Potato who said, Marmot Party and every party has an animal. It sounds G.
Honestly, it is kind of G like that. Maybe we ought to just call it an animal. Like, like the party, like the bachelor party or something. But anyway, so that we're on to the next one.
We also have a 2 from Game Theory who said, take one from the chat.
And I got to thank you for the support. We sure will. What do we got, Matthew?
And the question from the chat goes to none other than North Georgia Eats, who said, I don't know if y'all seen it yet, but did y'all see the guys cover the fact that Russia passed a bill to allow central banks to attack Ukrainian drones? That's going to be a disaster.
I haven't heard of that myself. I'd have to declare ignorance on that. Matthew, have you?
I haven't heard that either. How are the bank supposed to attack the drones? Like throw rubles at it? It's like they're gonna throw the cash drawer at it, the till.
Bro, they flicking nickels at them.
They don't even have that in Russia. But they're gonna throw something at it. They're gonna throw the brick wall at the drones. They're gonna throw the columns of the bank at them.
Bro, they're going to get that fat stack of rubles, which is equivalent to like $5, but it's like 5 inches thick. They're going to start chucking those at the drones and see what it does. But a big thanks to you for sponsoring a live chat. And with that, we're on the next one.
We also have a 2 from JP on the road who said Grippin E for Canada.
Oh, I thought that meant California. I was like, California? I was like, the National Guard. But yeah, the Griffin would be really cool for Canada, too. I think they actually are looking at some of them right now, if I'm not mistaken. But a huge thanks to you for support and helping the channel to keep it running. And with that, folks, it's time for us to get to our Morse code decoders and 3 live chat questions. Round this thing out for 9. So what we got, man?
So the Morse code decoders tonight were Paul, Kevin, Mason, Joni, Norm, Airbell, Heroic Fluffness, Kushko, Tarek, Cyan, Brian. They said the Morse code says the U.S. has dropped more bombs on Iran than Iran has in their arsenal. It doesn't break the ceasefire. LLT, LSA.
And and that's the sound of money. Y'all got the dent on the nail. That's them damn Morse code messages of the night. Shoot. I gotta congratulate y'all once again. At least Spencer and Corver getting that correct time and time again. Goodness gracious. Y'all getting that right all the time. Really something amazing and fantastic there. And I gotta say that Morse code message is true as hell. Y'all know it too. Dap me up. But anyways, with that, it's time for us to get on and into our third to last question of the night.
So this one goes to Miss Disa, who said, did y'all see this? But a CIA official was arrested with $40 million of stolen gold bars found in his residence in Virginia. I saw that too. Totally believable, by the way, that he could just somehow allegedly get his hands on $40 million worth of stolen gold bars and nobody noticed that. Very odd caper, I must say. I wonder if anybody else happened to know that he was doing that and just happened not to say anything about it. I wonder, allegedly. Yeah, look at that. There's a gold bar right there.
Blood out here with the bullion.
Who's got their hands on that? Got the bullion, got the gold bricks.
I don't know who's got that. It doesn't really say where that is, but you can get gold bars in all kinds of different sizes. Like, look at this little Kenna bar that's an ounce, or this bar in a protective case. These are the little ones. You want them biggins like these.
Yeah, there's a lot more to that story, by the way. I'm sure people can kind of catch on to what I'm trying to say with that. There's a hell of a lot more to that story.
And it'll probably all be buried deep underground, and nobody will hear about it again. Probably, like this will.
That's
probably
gonna be complicated as hell prosecuting him. Like, it's like, how's that going to work? It's like, he's obviously in a position that's rather sensitive. So it's like, what are they going to hold us in a secret court or something? I mean, how's this going to work?
I don't know, but it's going to be bizarre. But I did hear about this today, MSD saying it was absolutely insane to hear. And I think there was also like 2 million in cash there as well, along with like the 40 million in gold bars. Quite a lot to just have sitting around, like was someone broke into his house?
Yeah, I don't think he has to worry about that.
No, I don't think so. But with that, we're on the second to last question of the night.
We also have a super chat from David Ford.
Oh.
He said, I stopped watching after you dissed my music, LOL.
Hey, oh, come on. I mean, everybody's got their tastes. Everybody's got their tastes and their flavors. But I tell you, I gotta stand on my principle here. Modern music just ain't good. Like, I just stand by that. Like, I saw Matthew show me some song, Tevsky. That shit was ass. Like, I was like, that is terrible. I don't even know how people listen to this stuff. And it had like tens of millions of views. I was just like gobsmacked, honestly. But a big thanks to your support, helping this channel to keep running. And with that, we're on the second to last question of the night.
And this one goes to Horse Girl, who said, will the Russians pull back to the Surovikin line?
They're actually already on it for most of the part in the area, so they might try and pull back to the Surovikin line, but I have a feeling that that's going to be pretty hard-pressed for them, considering that most of it is just down here south of Novoperkivka and Robotny. So I hope that does address that the best I can. And with that, we're on to the final question of the night. And so who was the lucky last person who threw in the lucky last question of the night? Hello? 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 You there? Oh, he's abandoning us, people. He's abandoning us. Hello? Uh-oh. Discord crapped itself out. Hold up, folks. I gotta try and get this done here. Oh, good lordy. Hold up, folks. Hang tight, everybody. We're trying to manage a crisis here. Hold up. We're trying to see if we can get this all worked out. All put together. He can't hear nothing. He can't hear squat. Can you hear me now? Can you hear? I think Discord's shit out. I think Discord's done for, folks. Discord is cooked. God. Let me get that in there, folks. We gotta try and sort this whole damn thing out. Goodness gracious. You wouldn't believe it, folks. Discord just ended up quitting. So, we'll have to soldier on solo. So, the final question of the night goes to Chris Howard. And Chris said, with the gas shortage in Russia, do you think that it'll push Russia to go to nukes on a scaled attack? And I would have to say, most likely not. The fuel shortage will lead to significant strategic losses within the southern front, but it most likely will not force the Russian Federation to use a nuclear weapon, because they're only losing offensive gains that they got at the beginning of the war 4 years ago. So I hope that does address that the best I can, and we have reached the end of tonight's stream. I have to thank you all so much once again for watching. It's been an absolute honor and a pleasure to be able to have all of y'all here with us tonight. We had a peak viewership of 19,000 people, and 125,000 people have watched the stream before it ended. Oh,
am I back?
Oh, he's back. Oh, thank God.
Hey, the whole Discord thing just went down for a minute there, and then now it's back up again. We were down, and then we were up. It works like that sometimes.
Damn, man, you just joined us for the right moment. We're just rounding this thing out right now. We got to the final question and everything.
Oh, damn. Well, how about that?
It's something else, really. But I mean, that really is. I mean, literally, once I got done, I was literally rounding this thing out right now, and then I heard, and I was like, what? But anyways, with that, folks, we will see you all tomorrow at 10 p.m. Eastern Time to cover the next 24 hours of the news from around the world. And if there is a short war video to be made, I'll be the one making that short war video. And so with that, good night, good luck, take care, stay safe. Slava Ukraini, Haram Slava, long live the Lee Spring Army, and long live the Republic.
And with that, folks, a huge shout out to everybody for joining us once again tonight. And I was able to make it back for the final outro, thankfully. I thought I was going to get cut out of the whole thing, but I'm back. I'm back again. But with that, we'll see you all tomorrow, of course. And thank you all for joining us once again tonight. We'll see you at 10 p.m. Eastern tomorrow for the next Nightly War News stream, and also the video as well that maybe the Enforcer will put out if there is enough news to cover, and we'll have to see if there is. But in the meantime, though, a huge shout out to all of you, and of course, Slava Ukraine, Hiram Slava, get some rest, and good night.